Yeah.
Topic. Just put his hand in the gavel. Right. Well, good evening. It is 7 o'clock. If we could do a quick mic check. I'll do mine. Hello, hello. Okay, we have a full house, so we'll definitely want to make sure we're moving mics close when we're talking. And then I'll call this meeting to order at 7 o'clock and we will do the Pledge of Allegiance. And a roll call when you're ready.
Steelman,
Here.
Keaton,
Here.
Jacobson,
Here.
Robel.
Here.
Reband,
Here.
DeYoung,
Here.
Falmouth. Here.
Anybody that would like to set or adjust the meeting agenda tonight? Hearing none, declaration of conflict of interest pertinent to any agenda items tonight. Then we will move into public comments. Comments shall be directed to the PC with questions directed to the chair. Any person wishing to address the PC shall speak from the lectern or use the raise hand feature in Zoom and state your name and address. Persons may address the PC on matters that are relevant to township planning and zoning issues. No person shall be allowed to speak more than once on the same matter, excluding the time needed to answer a PC member's question. Public comment shall be limited to 3 minutes per person. Anybody in town hall? None. So Zoom, I see Vicky has her hand up. Go ahead,
Good
Vicky.
evening. Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, I want to thank you all for your time and efforts. I know that we're in the midst of a lot of work, including revisiting the master plan, as well as ensuring our ordinances reflect the desires of the community. And what a welcome sight it is to see all the seats filled tonight from the chair. I'm having a little bit of jet lag, so I'm staying home tonight, or jet lag, staying home tonight. I've been very encouraged attending the PC meetings lately, and I feel you all are working really well together for the future of our township. I really, truly can't thank you enough. I'm sure that most of you have heard of the ongoing issue with the land division on Baggs Road. The initial division was done incorrectly according to the General Ordinance 26. I've been asking questions about that since March 2nd of 2022. For those of you that have been on the PC since then, I'm sure you are tired of hearing my questions about it. And today the board voted to uphold the ordinance. I am still concerned that my questions regarding this division went unanswered for this long, and I feel that it was being swept under the rug. I know a lot of you were not part of that. And because I oppose the site condos in an agricultural area that contains mainly single-family homes on close to 5 acres, my questions were ignored. This truly is an unfortunate situation. I really wish we were not in this position, which further illustrates the need for all of you as planning commission members to be super diligent in your duties. I am so grateful for the expertise that Randy Milnick is providing to our community. As you all know and hear and read all the time, we are under extreme pressure in this entire area for land development and additional housing. I encourage you to consider the master plan and ordinances going forward as you review any land use permit that comes before you. Just because there is pressure doesn't mean we have to waver from our ordinances and master plan. We have had pressure in the past for marijuana growing and manufacturing facilities, event barns, high density campgrounds, private golf courses, site condos, to name a few. Please keep our master plan and ultimate direction of our township in mind as you go forward. I would also like to inquire about the checks and balances that are in place to avoid this unfortunate event in the future. I also encourage you on a totally different note to please reach out to trustee Don Glenn to see if he needs any additional help for the free camping weekend that is going on this weekend. Hopefully weather will cooperate. And as we all know, it takes a village. Again, thank you all very much for your time and efforts.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else in Zoom? Okay. We don't have a public hearing tonight, so we'll move into approval of the minutes. We have 3 of them to review. We need to do them individually. So the first one is the April 5th subcommittee meeting. Any alterations or corrections?
That was the regular PC meeting.
Oh, sorry. Yes, you're right. The regular meeting, April 5th. Thank you. No corrections? I have a motion to approve. Somebody? Motion made to approve the regular meeting minutes.
I'll second it.
Mike seconds. Roll call when ready.
Robel,
Did you approve the minutes?
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Oh,
okay.
no. I have a question. My comment in there in the beginning of the minutes,
microphone.
after,
Carl, the microphone.
yeah, my comment, I think you said said to go back to that page that there didn't need to be any changes in the ordinance relative to the ZBA and nonconformities. Yeah, if you say that's what I said, I thought I qualified that at this time. We only had 2 meetings and only one of them had 2 variance issues, which were nothing. Without that, we wouldn't only had 1 meeting in the winter. So I don't see any reason to go through and changing an ordinance for something that isn't a problem at this time. I did ask the other members of the ZBA, you know, if there was any issues they wanted us to address, and they basically gave me a blank look. I understand Bob's position on variances, that in some townships, he can make some of the decisions. We can tell him that as long as the
Carl,
variance isn't being infringed on further, they can increase the size of the property. We don't tell them by how
but
much.
Carl, I guess the question at hand right now is your comment correct in the minutes or it's incorrect?
Well, that's just what I said in the minutes. I have a little problem with the way the statement came out, and maybe that's what.
Are you talking about the address nonconformities when the time is more appropriate?
Which statement in the minutes would you like corrected?
It's on page.
Carl does not feel that changes in nonconformity need to be made in the zoning ordinance regarding nonconformities. That's I think it's at this time, I don't misunderstand. We could, but there's no reason to.
So to me, that's how I read that statement. Is exactly what,
I know later on, there's another statement I
Oh.
made that's very similar.
can you point to where that one is for me?
Pardon?
Can you point to where the other incorrect
I
statement?
mean,
in the minutes
it's
is?
not incorrect. The other one was kind of what I meant. It's down further.
Is it no
that's-
meeting
I
in
don't have a
March
problem with
address
that.
nonconformities when the time is more
It's
appropriate?
basically the same thing. We just don't need to work on it at this time.
That's how I read your second statement too. It says address nonconformities when the time is more appropriate.
Correct. That's
Okay. So To me, that's what you're restating now. Is that okay to leave it as?
Yeah,
is?
that's fine.
Okay. So we have a motion to accept the minutes as they're written. And we have a second, and we're ready for roll call, I believe.
Robel,
Yes.
Jacobson,
Yes.
Valmuth,
We voted for that here. I don't think so. I don't vote, right?
I
I
have to
wasn't in
put you
this
down as
meeting.
abstain.
There you go.
Keaton,
Yes.
Rebant,
Yes.
DeYoung,
Yes.
Steelman.
I wasn't here either. It says I was absent, so
Just abstain.
abstain.
We only have to vote if we have to.
All right, the next minutes to review are the subcommittee meeting from April 13th.
You're going to do that, then you aren't gonna have a motion carried on these other ones because you don't have a full board.
Okay, did you hear what I just stated? If you need our vote, we'll vote. I don't think we should vote if you don't need our vote. Because we weren't here. So. We still have to approve them. And if you need our vote. We'll vote.
I mean, I watched it. I can
Yeah, I
vote.
did too, so. But I didn't,
Problem with every one of them, right? Because there's only
Yeah,
three at
but-
the meeting, so.
no,
nobody-
four, there should be four, forums four. Your
Not for a
meetings are
special.
three,
Right.
so it's a different vote.
Oh, gotcha.
I'll get a clarification on it.
Well, right for now, I'd like to lean on your expertise, Lois, of which is what we need to do for tonight to pass these. Do we need to all vote?
Mhm.
I will say yes.
Well, on that first one, you don't.
Okay,
I just put Steelman was not here. I put Valmuth was not here.
okay.
Right,
So you're
so
saying on the
for the vote,
special,
we got it.
Mhm.
okay.
And
That's
these
how I
these
read it
other
in the
three
rules.
require
We weren't
more
required to
people
be
than
here.
was here.
Right, okay, that makes sense. So the second one is special meeting minutes from April 13th. Any corrections? I'll take a motion.
I make a motion to accept the meeting notes.
Alice, go ahead,
I second it.
roll call when ready, please.
Where did that just go? There it is. I'm sorry, who did the second on
I
that?
did.
Okay,
Al did.
half my screen went blank when I tried to type reband. Jacobson,
Yes.
Valmuth.
Yes.
Keaton,
Yes.
Rebant,
Yes,
DeYoung,
Yes.
Steelman,
Yes,
Robel.
Yes.
Thank you.
now we'll move on to the minutes for the special PC meeting on April 19th. Any corrections or amendments?
I'd make a motion. We accept the minutes of April 19th.
I'll second it.
Roll call when ready.
Valmuth.
Yes. Oh, I'm absent, so.
And here. Keaton,
Yes.
Rebant,
yes,
DeYoung,
Yes.
Steelman,
Yes,
Robel,
Yes.
Jacobson.
Yes.
now we're going to move on to the master plan subcommittee special meeting minutes from April 24th. Any corrections or amendments? If not, I will make a motion to accept master plan subcommittee special meeting minutes from April 24th.
I'll second it.
Roll call when ready.
Keaton,
Yes.
Rebant,
yes,
DeYoung,
Yes.
Steelman,
Yes,
Robel,
Yes.
Jacobson,
Yes.
Valmos.
Yes.
Thank you. I don't have any correspondence to share, so I'm going to move into reports, presentations, and announcements. Bob Hall was not able to attend tonight, but he did send me a message that said, based on township board decision this morning, it appears that Bags Road Site condo project will not be moving forward in the near term. So that's his update. I am next, and the things I wanted to talk about tonight are in the packet, so I don't have a separate report. That moves it on to Heidi.
Hey. Just because I wasn't here doesn't mean I wasn't paying, just because I wasn't here doesn't mean I wasn't paying attention. I'm gonna applaud all of you. You guys are doing a really, really great job. Rachel already explained to you what happened this morning in my meeting. I can't tell you where it's gonna continue to go at this point. I know where my homework goes. Other than that, the only other thing is I asked a question about where the books are, and I cannot give you the answer I was given. So I will tell you it's a work in progress. How's that? Because if I tell you what the answer I was given, then I am throwing one of my team members on my other committee under the bus. So I'm just gonna leave it at that. And I'm gonna come in and see if paper's here and can make more copies, and Rachel, maybe we'll tag team it. I mean, I was able to do quite a bit in 4 hours.
Regarding, can I real quick ask a question? Carl was going to help with those binders? Were you able to get in touch with Ron about the binders? Were you able to get in touch with Ron about the binders?
Yes, I did. He said at this time he didn't need any help.
Okay.
All righty. That's all I got. You need any help from me, you know where to find me.
Thank you. Carl, do you have a ZBA update?
No, there hasn't been a meeting of any sort since the last time.
Thank you. So now we're going to move into the resident outreach subcommittee updates and recommendations. So this is where we can invite Denise and Tom to join us. So if you want to use the mic if and when you speak. I can just summarize, I believe that the resident outreach subcommittee, and you'll see it in your packet on page 12, that there was a motion to accept. This motion is being requested of the PC from the resident outreach subcommittee. A motion to accept resident outreach subcommittee's recommendation to submit a purchase order to Networks Northwest for a package survey assistance program not to exceed $3,000. This purchase order is included within the approved PC budget. I imagine we want some discussion around that. So Ron or Rod, do you want to take it away?
Well, probably the place to begin with, Denise, if you could just give us an update of what you were able to discuss, or if you've had time to discuss our needs with North Network Northwest. Yeah.
I'm glad that you asked me to come up. I had contact with Zach Vega, and he will be working with us. And one of the things I wanted to address right away is he started out at $3,000, and then but he doesn't. He with postage and mailing, if that might be an additional cost that would be on top of that 3,000. I don't want to hold up the survey just because the dollar amount if we have to come back for an approval. I don't know if you're willing to raise the amount, maybe.
How much do we need to raise?
Well,
Is that mic on, Denise?
maybe if I put my
Thank
face
you.
close.
Thank you, because I'm having a hard time here.
hear
Go ahead.
a thing even with her standing there.
I know. So Denise, outside voice. No.
Yes, okay. Networks Northwest, the contact person, Zach Vega, gave me a higher estimate than the first person I spoke with. And what will drive up the cost is how we handle the survey. And we're having our meeting tomorrow morning and we haven't really discussed it yet, so I don't know which way we're going to go. However, with his recommendation is to go with a postcard and a QR code on the back and a link for the online survey and mail that out. And because the number of responses you get, if you mail out, I think we mailed out just under 1,600 for the ARPA survey. And 180 some came back. That's a lot of trash, paper in the trash. And he said, if the people don't do them, they just throw them in the trash. So if you send a postcard and they can type in the link, I did bring up that our township doesn't have access to the internet, but on the postcard, we could also print, if you would like a paper copy mailed to you, please call. And then we could mail them the copy, or they could come by the hall and pick it up. And we could handle it that way. What will increase besides the printing cost and the postage is what I was speaking with him about. In order to tabulate the whole surveys returned, if we had paper copies, they would have to manually enter them into the online survey that they have. And the cost of having someone to do that will drive up the cost of on their end. Now, I don't know how many of those we'll get.
Could a volunteer do it?
I would really like to be that person because I want to go into their office. But I'll ask him. I would love to volunteer.
All
there.
right, Denise is I'm writing it down. Denise has volunteered.
Yeah,
Okay.
but
So you did an excellent job on the other one, just so you know, on the ARPA survey.
well, that was, yeah, I think that was a very good group that worked together and stayed up all
Yeah, but you
night.
did a fantastic job with the tallies. I say
Well,
with you.
Well, thanks. I couldn't have done it without everybody's help.
But are you suggesting though that you would do it here or you would do it at Networks Northwest as the
I could
volunteer
talk,
there?
I could speak with him further on that.
Now you gotta mail it to Northwest. I mean,
Well, they're willing to have the mailing address, their office as
If-
well.
If it was online though, would they just have access to tabulate those results instantly electronically? Right.
Yeah, and I don't know if you want me to go into more detail or if you would rather just what you need to have a motion for, which is the cost. Because the committee's meeting tomorrow morning and we haven't really gone through all these details yet. I can continue, but then,
I mean, I know Vicky's not here, but otherwise we have the ROS here
yeah,
and the PC. So I
Yeah.
don't know that we couldn't. If we knew more about it, we might be able to make a decision to change the motion right now.
did they give you like any kind of estimate? Like, is it $500? Is it $1,000? Is it $2,000?
well, I was trying to get that I was just gonna call the post office and say, 1,600 postcards, how much would the postage be on that?
Depends if they do, it all depends on bulk rate. I mean,
Yeah,
the postage is anywhere from 35 cents to 65 cents, mostly 55 cents on a postcard, but that depends if you do it bulk. That depends if you drop it all in the box yourself. If they're doing the whole thing,
that's,
you got a ballpark? I mean, we only
Well,
have to
they-
come
they-
up with a ballpark. here.
and when I spoke with him, the new contact person, he started with $3,000. And then I said, I think that was the number of surveys and not the dollars, but that was the impression he got when he picked up this project. So, but I'm just saying that probably the main cost contributors to the cost will be the postage.
That's in what I mean.
And he could get a printer. They have a printer, and I was trying to get the printer that the supervisor has that they might be using for the community newsletter that will do it for less cost than what their a commercial printer would do. And I haven't gotten that information yet, but they could send the postcard out for printing. And then and the other question is about the merging the voter registration and the
List.
the property parcel list. Property owner list.
I would suggest tomorrow we have the ROS group getting together. If we could, fill in the blanks here, some of the discussion that we're going through right now, I think just needs to churn with the ROS.
Okay, but is the $3,000 vital to keep you guys?
Well,
Because if it
yes,
is-
the approval,
Okay,
Yeah,
Okay,
Yeah.
so if we approve
oh,
three,
what I would suggest, we have $3,000 in postage also. So irregardless, if we do the mailings from the township, we will incur the postage cost. The question I think on the table here is, would they do that for us, and will it be $3,000 or less? So,
I think we need a better handle on what's the whole cost for you to do everything before we start. I'd rather have you give them the whole command, give them the whole project. Come back with a cost. If you need this 3,000 for a down payment for this gentleman, is that what you would need it for?
well, we wanted to spec out the project and the services that they would provide for us. And the number we started with was 3,000. Now we've switched, it sounds like we've switched
to,
contacts within the
Yes.
organization.
and
And the number may be a little squishy right now.
yeah, maybe higher. And for the timeline of this, that we want to have the survey out to the residents is June.
And how many surveys are you thinking of sending out?
From the ARPA surveys, we did just under 1,600.
Did he
So
give you a
I
cost
think
per
the number
postcard?
is closer to
To three.
2,000 or 2,200.
yeah,
I think,
Somewhere in
I
there.
would think more like 2,600 be,
I
but I
would
think
say
that the-
20, I would go with 2,600 because I'd rather go for the higher numbers and
Did he give you a cost per postcard?
no, that's because he's going to go to his printer and see how much it would cost his printer, just the cost, just to do that. And he would do that. They would only charge the cost that their
Right, I
printer
think we should
charged.
Find out everything they're doing, what's posted.
Well,
26.
here's another way to approach it. If we keep the cost of this project under $5,000,
Correct.
the approval process
Is the,
is different. If we could get the approval of the PC for a spend at up to $5,000 and get that part moving, that would allow us to prep for the survey, which is on the fast track. That's the most important part in
It
front
is.
of the ROS
cause you guys are.
right now.
You're doing really good.
Yeah,
So
so
let's not
if we could do that, and then we'll fill in the blanks.
Yeah.
As we get the details, and if we find out that 5,000 isn't enough, we would come back
To the
Yeah.
table.
to the table and,
so is it
Explain.
5,000 or 4,999?
Yeah.
I want 4,999.
Okay.
How about we do this?
Yeah.
$4,900. And if you need more, come
Yeah.
back.
Okay,
Is that okay
I-
with you, Randy?
Yeah.
Sound like we're ready to make a motion to
I
do
think
that,
so.
second that, and move on.
Anybody else have a
I have
question?
one question. So is this how many of these are we gonna have to do this year? How many mailings are we gonna? have to do this
for the survey, I believe, just one. Now, if we want to do the workshops, that's another item will be, we're aiming for, I believe, July, August, and September in
But
that timeline.
Wouldn't that be a different kind of cost? Because it would just be a postcard coming.
Yeah,
come to
it
the
wouldn't
meeting?
be, it wouldn't be the same postage costs and other things like that. It would be a different set of things that need to be done. I think it would be not as costly.
Could we use a public service announcement with this too, to get them kind of used to what we're doing? Maybe get a Ron Jolly to give us a little plug on, hey, Whitewater's doing their master plan.
Yeah.
I think we could,
Yes.
sure.
I'm just gonna throw the ideas out, you guys.
My question is how many more of these do we have to do for the master plan this year? And are we gonna have enough money?
We had only planned to do one survey.
And then is there any other mailings we're gonna have to do to get people to come in or if we do workshops?
I think the answer is probably, but we aren't that far enough down the road. We're just kind of stuck right here with the survey. So all you're hearing in this quote is the survey. If we find that there are other pieces that we have to communicate to the public, that would come as another cost.
Okay, and I'm just wondering about our budget. You know, we have what, $20-some thousand in there for that, right?
We
We're
can
talking
always go
about-
back and ask for more.
Okay, let's
Yeah.
just-
They want a
yeah,
complete
something to
task.
Think about. you know.
Right,
Yeah.
if they
I
want a
think that's
complete
where
task, if we
in the
get
budget, we
close to
should show that.
15, then, that's where you guys did a great job by getting that little thing inserted in the agenda of the board. This is when I can go to the podium and go, okay, we did this, here's our cost, here's what we did, and guess what? Now we need a little more.
So I'm going to make a motion to accept the Resident Outreach Subcommittee's recommendation to submit a purchase order. Maybe we need to reword that. Well, let me read it again. A motion to accept Resident Outreach Subcommittee's recommendation to submit a purchase order to Networks Northwest for a package survey assistance program not to exceed $5,000.
No, we can't do
49.
Or that's what I meant. Yes, 4,900,
50,000.
4,950.
Let's make
This
it
purchase
creative.
order is included within the approved PC budget.
That will
So I'll
be,
have to have you read
that
this.
would be wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, a motion to accept Resident Outreach Committee's recommendation to submit a purchase order to Networks Northwest for a package survey assistance program not to exceed $4,950. This purchase order is included within the approved PC budget. So we don't have to use that much. I mean, it could be reworded where you're just for the survey so that it can be used locally for postage or with Networks Northwest, or does it have to be specific in your mind?
I think we need to talk about that in the ROS. I still feel that maybe there's a mailing process coming out of the township rather than network services.
So maybe this should be more generalized.
I think, yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna redo that, Lois.
Okay,
I'm gonna make,
hold on. Before you put responsibility in this building, you better have somebody's name on it. Because after I sat in a meeting today, nobody wants to do nothing unless it's their statutory job.
Well, it's
So
ROS and PC.
I get that, but explain to me who would put the stamps on or run the postage through the meter? Who's gonna do, you said put it on the township responsibility. Who's gonna do it?
I don't know that answer.
Okay, so.
Do you?
here's- exactly why I'm bringing it up.
Yeah.
I do not want, because we're trying to use you're kind of like coupon shopping right now, which is great, because everybody wants to get the best bang for their buck. However, I've sent surveys out, I've sent mailers out. If we stay under one house, it's cost controlled. Now, we have a project here going that we have to have controlled costs, okay? Because we have to go and ask and account for all our money. So I would rather have you guys come back with whatever this cost is, because At the end of the day, who's doing it? Nobody. I'm dead serious. Unless you're gonna come in and beg a secretary or get somebody on board. Unless one of us is doing it here,
We'll take that under advisement.
could you please?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I'd rather.
Yeah.
When I did it, I looked at all different kinds of ways, addressing it myself, stamping the letter. I mean, and I've been doing this since I was 22 years old. So I was very frugal. How could I save the most money? How could I not have to fill out paperwork? At the end of the day, Heidi was doing all the work.
Well, I would say this is the most important survey we're doing in years, so it's
okay,
got to be done right.
exactly. So put it all under one house so that if there's any issues, if anything happens, because you could throw it in a box at the mail place and it could sit in there and blow a date, okay? We're not gonna hold you accountable because you're gonna go, I just do it in the box. That's all you told me to do. If I have a contract, then I have a fix. And it's great when you look at ways to save money. But at the end of the day, this is too important to nickel and dime. If it's a
Yeah.
problem, get 3 estimates then, or get
So-
2 estimates.
So I know that the difficulty is the time, and that was the reason to get this motion in today. But when I'm thinking ahead and hearing of the discussion today of the confusion and uncertainty of what we're asking for and need and how much we need, I also know we're likely going to have another special PC meeting in the next couple of weeks. So I'm going to recommend you guys meet tomorrow, hammer this out and bring it back to us, and we'll get it on the agenda for our next PC meeting, which should be within the next week or two. Is that fair?
Are
for
you
today?
taking the motion off the table?
Well, I think at least needs to be reworded to be broader if we keep it on. And I'm not sure how to reword it. So if you can come up with something that I think we can all,
I think umbrellaing it under one.
Well, how about we do this? We do the motion to secure their services, so we get a placeholder on their calendar.
Exactly.
The postage could be a second part of a purchase order.
It could.
there
Yeah.
could be 2 motions. It could be the $3,000
Yeah,
for
yeah.
Networks Northwest specifically, and a second motion for $2,000 in postage.
And
Well-
We
printing-
could do it that
printing and
way,
postage.
for postage and printing.
Let's-
That's an
let's-
option.
Shouldn't we brought it to go to the 49.50?
I would prefer right now that we stay on the fast track
Right.
for the
Yeah,
initial
right.
service.
So
and-
do the 49.50, but
Yeah.
maybe.
Expect a second motion in the upcoming PC to talk about postage.
Could we add a second motion now? We have enough of us here from the ROS to be able to.
I
do
guess
2
I have a
motions.
question. If we're gonna have a survey, but we don't have the money to mail it, that doesn't make, to me, sense. So let's just vote what we gotta do. If we need the survey, get the cards and get the postage and be done with it. To have the survey and not be able to mail it doesn't
So-
make any sense.
So I'm gonna retract that motion, and I'm gonna give you guys another one to see what you think.
I'll take
I'm
my
gonna-
second off.
I'm gonna give you 2 actually. So the first one would be, and we don't have, it would be a motion to accept resident outreach subcommittee's recommendation to submit a purchase order to Networks Northwest for a package survey assistance program not to exceed $3,000. This purchase order is included within the approved PC budget. My second motion would be accept the resident outreach subcommittee's recommendation up to $1,950 for postage and printing.
Mhm.
So they would be separate, and it would be left, it could be Networks Northwest, or it could be local.
Yeah, but
That's
here-
not been decided yet.
Right, but here's the problem. If you split the project, here's how I'm thinking, you split the project in half. Now you got more problems, because you got more people accountable. Umbrella the whole thing, because you're not, by the time you try to, I'm telling you this right now, leave it under one umbrella, because either go get another estimate, either bring 2 estimates back. I don't know what to tell you, but questions are gonna get asked, pretty sure by my team members. If, remember the need to bring it forward or let them see things exactly how they are. So I'm gonna tell you right now, it's not worth the $200 we might save if we all sat here and put stamps on postcards or bought pre-printed postcards and took strips and addressed them ourselves. Because none of us are gonna be able to do it at the same
I
time.
don't think we're talking about.
Yes, we are, because she wants to do.
No,
the
that's
motion.
for them to decide.
I understand, but what I'm trying to tell them is leave it under one umbrella, have one company do the whole thing.
That's a great idea.
Where's the
But then-
pitfalls?
The cost, we're trying to, without any data, I can't give you the information that you want.
I understand that.
And
but
so
why not go for the 49.50 and say,
I would prefer to go with 49.50 as a blanket amount to handle the development of the survey with Networks Northwest and the cost of the mailing. I was thinking that we could save money by using a printer that may charge less, but if Networks Northwest has a printer and they would just charge us whatever that printer charged
again,
them.
keeping it all under.
Yeah,
one
and
house?
yeah. So I mean, that would help. I just don't know what the information is, and I don't want to end up with not getting this project done because of the timeline. We're really working to have this done by the end of the
Right.
month.
And if we keep it under one roof, you got less issues.
Yes.
Real quick, I wondered if, Tom, do you have any
Any
input?
comments?
We've been on
Input?
this topic a while, so I want to make sure you don't have anything to say before we figure out how to move forward.
I have not been in touch with Networks Northwest. I'm relying at this point on what Denise has.
Can you give me your
No.
opinion about what you think of the
I
combination?
hear what you're saying. I think that, obviously, we're gonna need Networks Northwest to do the processing of the QR link and get that done right and to process the results. I think the township has mailed things in the past. I think they may have a process for doing that. I think what you're saying is don't just put it on the township, that we have to have buy-in from an individual, but I don't know that any of us here have that capability this evening to do that. It may be something that can be handled with a face-to-face discussion tomorrow.
No, here, somebody can give us an answer right now. Lois, if I came in and asked someone in this hall, hey, could you send out all these postcards for me? What would you tell me?
Well,
I'm
we can
asking-
get a list. We can.
I'm just
I
asking
found-
what the process is.
I
in
know, but
negotiating.
I've confirmed that we can get a list and of names and addresses. And it can be, it can be done that way. Whether we want to do it that way or not, I think that is a topic that's gonna take a little more in depth with with the subcommittee we've asked to do this. So I think for sake of time, we probably need to figure out what this motion wants to be, or we need to just wait until the next meeting if
Okay.
we can't come to
Just one
some sort of
question.
agreement.
Do we have a bid or whatever for $3,000 from this company? Is there something in writing that
there-
says 3,000?
We do not. I have to go. As you know, we're not probably the only person in an organization that's asking for them to do projects. And so I need to make an appointment to go in. I've spoken with him on the phone and I've emailed, but I really want a face-to-face appointment, and maybe we can just go over everything more thoroughly at that time. If you want to work backwards on the timeline, if we want this mailed out by the 1st of June or the first week of June, and it takes a couple of days to do a mailing list, to deduplicate it, I from the voter registration and the property tax roll, that takes time. Networks Northwest needs, for them, once we hand them the survey, he said if he could just have a heads up of about a week, but that's not the time part, is that finding the print, getting in the printing
Right.
queue with the company that's going to do the printing. I'm just not going to be their only customer and come in and go, here I am.
I think,
I'm
So
not, I'm
I
not
think
comfortable.
we're really picking this thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I
with
guess,
Answers that we don't have. What we need
It's money.
is authorization to spend $4,950, and we will figure out how far that goes,
Well, up to.
up
4,000.
to, yeah,
And the next time you come back, you're gonna bring us,
phase 2 or whatever
you're
it
gonna
is.
bring us
Yeah.
like, okay, here's how much it's gonna cost, you're
Yeah.
gonna bring us an.
I would second that
Yeah.
motion.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
well, that's what I figured, but you guys just need an amount so that you can.
They can move forward.
We
You know
gotta,
what?
we gotta
Give 'em
move.
Give them the 49.50 and let them go.
I seconded that. That was a motion.
Okay, a motion to accept Resident Outreach Subcommittee's recommendation to submit a purchase order to Networks Northwest for a package survey assistance program not to exceed $4,950. This purchase order is included within the approved PC budget.
I'll second it
Thank you.
for discussion with one more question. What's your timeline?
Can
and-
you use your microphone?
Oh, I'm sorry. What's your timeline for a completion of detailed expenses coming back here? 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks?
If you're talking about the survey,
No, I'm just talking about the initial costs.
that's
We've met
the,
with
that's
them.
the initial cost.
Yep.
Yeah,
And you'll be back with, in other words, a detailed cost, like here.
You want a written contract.
Yeah,
You want to
written
see
contract.
a written estimate agreement, whatever it is.
I just want a date.
let's say 7 days.
Okay, I was gonna give you 12.
Give me 12, give us 12.
I know what you're
Thank you.
doing.
Okay,
It's not
roll
their
call
first
when
survey.
ready,
They should
please.
be able to do it.
Thank you, Denise.
Yeah, thank you, Denise. Thanks, Tom.
Roll call when ready, please. Thank you.
Rebant,
Yes,
DeYoung,
Yes.
Steelman,
Yes,
Robel,
Yes,
Jacobson,
Yes.
Valmuth,
Yes.
Keaton.
Yes,
thank you. So I know that the version 5 survey was passed out, but I didn't know were we gonna do that tonight or was that for tomorrow?
No, it was really intended for tomorrow's
Okay.
meeting, actually, but it works just as well. I emailed it to the committee members. There's no change between version 5 and version 5 reformatted. It's just
Okay, there's no change.
no content changes. They were just
Okay.
moving some boxes around and bolding and stuff like that.
So I'm gonna propose that we let the team tomorrow dive into this in depth. Is that okay? I mean, I guess that's what I thought it was for, so.
The committee have done a large amount of work looking at these questions, thinking about them. Is this, sharpening the language in this, making sure it's not redundant? And most importantly, making sure that there isn't any bias in the question, that we're not leading anyone towards an answer. Because we're certainly not trying to do that. We're trying to be objective and simply asking people's opinions.
Okay, so is that like a consensus? We're okay with letting the group tomorrow dive into this deeper for the sake of this meeting tonight?
Yeah, did you want anything from us? Should we read this? Should we give an opinion or we just go next? Go ahead, Tom.
Go ahead.
I would say that already the subcommittee has dived into this over and over and over again.
I'm looking at.
I don't think that there's going to be much change to this or much discussion on this at tomorrow's meeting. Because we've seen it so many times at this point. There are other things that we'll need to discuss tomorrow.
So would you say that probably the next PC meeting, so tomorrow you would probably come up with a motion to give us or a recommendation to give us to make a motion on approving the survey as written? So you'd finalize it maybe tomorrow and we would be ready to.
Yeah.
Are we ready to do that
Are
tonight?
we
I guess
ready
that's what
to
I'm
do that
getting at.
now?
I think we are.
Okay. So has everybody felt that's here on the PC, felt like they've had time and they reviewed this enough themselves? They're okay with moving forward with accepting this survey as it's proposed today?
I have.
I am, I can't, I kept
Okay.
reading this going, wow, this is
You
impressive.
okay with that, Carl?
Nice job,
Move that
guys.
Survey forward.
I've got a problem with the survey.
You do?
Microphone.
You do?
I have.
Okay, get by the microphone, Carl.
Okay.
Tell me what it is.
Uh, I've read the previous, all I want to know is the methodology. I've read the previous survey over and over. It's quite lengthy. Was it $6,000 they said at that time across for that survey?
I think it
forget.
was close. to
Somewhere,
that.
it wasn't it? But did you people in coming up with the new survey go through the old survey question by question, determine if it was relevant, needed to be asked again, or were comfortable with it, or say, no, we don't, this isn't, that was my question.
We
Is-
reviewed it in great lengths
Okay,
together.
then I'm
Yes.
happy.
Thank you.
Carl, you know what I
In
did?
fact, I would add that the very last question is exactly the question that was asked in 2009.
Yep.
So that
I
we
saw
can
that.
compare those results with what current results are.
And Carl, you know what I did? I went and wrote down, I went through every single question and I wrote fixed, not fixed, fixed, not fixed. But when I read some of these, here's what bothered me the most about this survey in 2009. The way you can answer these questions puts stuff in different contexts. You want a continual answer. And these questions do that. That's the difference I found from reading this and.
I
reading-
wanted to go through them side by side, but I couldn't find my copy of the new one. I thought it was in my computer from last meeting.
Well, you know what I did, Carl, is I went through, I'll show you my list here. It was pretty interesting to do.
So just for the sake of time tonight, I would like to make a motion that the PC accepts this survey created by the Resident Outreach Subcommittee to be the one used in the master plan survey or something like that. Help me
I
out.
would second that version 5 as reformatted. It's the one we're improving.
Thank you for
So the
clarifying.
motion is to accept version 5
Version
of
5
the survey
formatted
reformatted.
of the Whitewater Township Master Plan Community Survey.
Everybody good with that?
Yes.
Randy?
Yep.
Mike?
We got a second, so roll call when ready.
Young,
Yes.
Steelman,
Yes.
Robel,
Yes.
Jacobson,
Yes.
Vamos.
Yes.
Keaton,
Yes.
Reband.
Yes. What is the date of the next full PC meeting? In June?
June,
7.
thank you.
7th, okay.
I think we'll have to have another special meeting between now and then.
I think so.
Okay. Are we good on resident outreach? I don't want to rush through that and make sure I don't miss anything.
Sorry, Carl.
Yes? Okay. I am going to turn on this projector and share Municode.
Press the power button.
So, yeah, or the other lights, actually, if you just shut those off, it helps more. And then this one back on,
Skinny mini. Get through there.
and this one back on.
So I don't want to spend I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but we talked about it at the last meeting about giving you an opportunity to see what Municode has done for us. And so I'm just going to start at the top here. I don't want to give you whiplash. But you can see it's 124 pages. This is the zoning section, the zoning ordinance section. I mean, I don't have anything specifically really to point out or show you. I'm gonna just slowly show you some footnotes and a couple of things that show you what they've done. If you have any questions or want me to stop or slow down, let me know. Wait a minute, wait.
He gets them up in the middle of the screen.
Is this written specifically for Whitewater Township? Or is this generic?
Randy, can you help explain what we're looking at for me? Thanks.
It's my understanding this is the product, their work product from their contract that called for them to essentially reorganize and recodify the existing zoning ordinance. And so one of the things that I found in looking through that is there are at least 25 footnotes or so that draw attention to, like example number 2, they're about questions that are open about what the ordinance requires or doesn't require. In addition to other work that they may have done, but you can see that there are a number of issues there that are left hanging. So that kind of, I think, speaks to why it wasn't completed, in that I'm not sure that answers were provided to them. I think they did a lot of good work here in terms of reorganizing material, but I've not honestly gotten much past that, other than, again, finding out seeing their footnotes, which draws attention to issues that need to be tackled.
So are there any questions or anything specifically you would like to see regarding this?
How do you want to use it, Randy?
Well, I guess another point I would want to look at these definitions, and since we're looking at that, and make sure those are the accurate definitions. Definitions are key in a zoning ordinance because it needs to be very precise. I'm not sure that Muni Code went through those definitions the way they perhaps should be. And I don't know. I would just want to,
Can you give an example one?
well, I know you might want to go to the fences definition, because that was
That's
one I
perfect.
pointed out before, where they had, they put requirements for a fence in the definitions.
Right here, a fence right here.
Okay, no, so that was apparently fixed then. Or there is maybe another definition of some offense or something, because I remember I drew attention to that in my version of the zoning ordinance. That went on to say it's so many feet from a lot line, it's so tall.
Oh, there it is, the
Oh.
corner ladder now.
Oh.
That's got setbacks. Not recorded.
So perhaps they fixed that part and just left the definition to be a definition of the term, not a requirement. Because that's about the last place you would find it if you were looking for, what do you have to do to put a fence up?
So that would be one example of something that we could use from what they've done.
Yes,
You know, that's useful. We didn't waste the money spent on their services.
right. So I would also mention that there are books of definitions of zoning ordinances.
Sorry, I don't know
If
what.
you can't sleep at night, that's a good thing to look at.
There you go.
What ordinance number is this one?
This is the whole, supposed to be the
Unicode.
whole zoning ordinance that Municode
Yeah.
codified. You know, another point to make, I think, is that they did it for everything, general ordinances and zoning ordinance.
Yes.
So it wasn't, the money spent wasn't all just for planning commission per se. It was for the township,
For all the general ordinances, the
Mhm.
general police power ordinances.
correct? And I don't think I can show that right now. I don't have it up.
So you see at the top where they updated subdivision control with Land Division Act, and so they've updated the proper state law citations. So that's helpful. But as you scroll through it, I think I counted 25 definite or 25 footnotes in there that left open questions.
In a real world process, if you continued using Municode in Whitewater Township, if you were proposing a change and it passes through all of the organizations and it's signed off by the PC and perhaps the board, how does this get updated? Is it Municode that is brought in then to take our document and input it into this online format?
The way I'm used to working with zoning ordinances is that there is one zoning ordinance, one book from cover to cover, Article 1 to 25 or whatever it is. And that if there is amendments to it, you put it in the whole document. Because as mentioned
Okay.
before, it's an ordinance that one section relates to another. There are cross references between one part of the ordinance and another. And so it's important that we have those cross references correct. And I don't know whether Municode got to that point of doing those cross references. They clearly stalled at this point.
Yeah.
So ideally, I think, if you go to a lot of local governments, and I mentioned in Grand Traverse County, most, if not all, you'll find a separate zoning ordinance that you can download that gives you the entire book. If it's been amended, the amendments are the date of the amendment and the ordinance number is there in the citation.
Which
So,
is another thing they've done
right.
that we can use. So this is helpful. You know what to reference and when changes were made.
Mhm.
So I think there's useful information. And it's not a waste, but it's just time to do something different.
But one thing you see is there is no graphics in this. There's no illustrations of what these things mean. You can spend 2 or 3 paragraphs describing what side lot line is. Or any other term, and it's so much easier to draw a picture of it. I think as I showed some examples before of ordinances that are using much more graphics to illustrate important points in a zoning ordinance. Something that the average resident can pick up and read and look at and understand too, so that they don't have to be an attorney to read through.
Common terminology.
That's been a goal in the PC for a long time.
Microphone, sorry.
Something we struggle with to get done right.
Microphone.
That's something the PC has struggled with to do. To make it so that everybody can understand it. So I like that.
Never be afraid to turn to your neighbor and say, hey, common terminology. Make them explain it.
I think the whole idea here is just the fact that there is some stuff here that we can use, or Randy can use. That this allows us to show that, hey, we're not throwing away what you've done already. We're gonna use that, but we need to move on to something else.
Do we need to each pick it apart of what we want to keep and what we want to get rid of, or no?
No, we want to hire Randy to do
If we do that, we'll be here next year.
That's what I figured.
You think this is a good jumping off point to start from?
I do. I mean, I think the issue also is having everything redone and then readopted, and this going forward, and any conversation about, is this the most current version of the zone?
That won't happen again.
So that doesn't happen again.
So the life of this system, apparently we own the documents that exist. If the contract was terminated, we would still own the rights to this document. And its replacement would be whatever
Right.
we come up with. And then you do the data load from Municode and then whatever else.
Right. And so I'm not speaking to any of the police power ordinances. That's a whole separate issue with the township board, and that it has much less to do with the planning commission. The planning commission, of course, is more responsible for the zoning ordinance.
I have
Master
a
plan.
question. I tried to read through that document Cheryl sent to us about what they did. And I did not understand a lot of it. My impression is that this company, when we make changes to ordinances, et cetera, it's their responsibility then to update all of our ordinance, make sure the nomenclature, numbers, definitions are all the same, go through and rewrite the whole thing for us to make sure everything is up to date. Part of it is making sure what we have agrees with Michigan law. Is that kind of what they do? Is we, rather than us have somebody over here retype all that stuff and put it back into the computer, or do they do that?
Can you answer him, Randy?
Well, I believe it's the township attorney's responsibility to make sure that any ordinance passed is consistent with state
Well,
law.
then what are these? What are they doing? I mean, I read all that, but I give up. What do they really do?
Well, I mean, any zoning ordinance amendment that the planning commission entertains goes through the township attorney, and any legal flags are raised at that point, and I'm sure the same is true with the town.
Yeah, I
board.
know. We go through what the township attorney says and we make our own decision. And then, you know, the next meeting or something, I get this big pack of printed out paper of stuff that's, you know, I just say, well, who does that? Is that their responsibility?
Well, I think it's the township attorney who is with you in court if there's
But
there's an issue.
then what are they doing?
What are
What is
Unicode?
who doing?
Yeah,
Unicode or the board?
No, what does this company do? What is,
Unicode.
I read that whole
Unicode.
contract, but I didn't understand half of what
Right,
the
can
words
you
were,
give
you know, I've never seen this stuff before.
Quick overdraft.
Can
I mean, I
kind
do,
of
go ahead.
quickly go over it. So from what I understand is that we gave Unicode our codes, what we had. They went through them briefly, not in a way that Randy will go through them. They went through them just to see if anything stood out as far as the law was incorrect or wording was duplicated in certain places, not necessarily looking at whether the definitions were correct, but whether they were duplicated. and
Yeah,
things
they're
like that. That's where
consistent.
we got these notes up here. And then the notes were supposed to come back. And then the board, because there's nobody else to do it, had to then look at those notes and decide what they were gonna change and do something about that. Well, COVID hit and everything else hit and whatever else happened, that didn't get done. So what we're looking at, and then after the board looked at that, fixed it and sent it back to Municode, then Municode would put that on the website.
Okay.
So you would be able to go to a website and find the document, find everything, and it'll look all fancy and everything.
Yeah.
And that's great for large
Communities.
communities, but we're
Yeah.
not.
I-
One PDF file that has hyperlinks in it will do everything we need it to do. So did that answer your question a little bit?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Has anybody in this room gone out to look at Municode Whitewater Township?
Mhm. Kind of embarrassing.
Embarrassing. I haven't.
Well, it's not complete.
Yeah,
It started and it stopped and years just went by.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Yeah.
But I don't know why you would let something to keep going, you know, get the job done and
Yeah.
move on, but I feel like Randy and Keith, we're not big enough to have them do it for us because we don't have enough for them to, in other words, major companies, major towns with like 10, 20,000 people.
Yeah.
You have more building, you have more issues. We're small. We just need to get our house in order.
So we're kind of, I showed the Municode and we're kind of inching into the next agenda item, which is really the crux of it, which is the subcommittee, the PC special subcommittee. And we would like to get some updates. I do have a quick thought that ties that with the Municode. Because they were hired to do all ordinances, general and zoning. If we cancel that contract, that leaves the general still a mess. It fixes our problem, but how are we gonna address that if we're asked that in the meeting? Well, you want us to cancel this contract, your zoning ordinance, but that doesn't. I guess I'm predicting that being a question popping up. How would we handle that?
So maybe it's an amendment to the contract that lets them go ahead with the general ordinance, the general law stuff and keep that as it is. And because that's not really under the planning commission's purview with general law ordinances.
That's a perfect
I
answer.
agree with that. That's exactly what I was thinking.
Why not?
Yeah, let them do that part.
But the planning commission relies on the zoning ordinance to review special use permits and whole oversight of whether or not any amendments are necessary. So it's important for the planning commission to have a document that's workable.
Right.
Okay, so I think in our proposal, I know I'll let Keith take over really because this is, you were gonna report on this meeting, but when I'm thinking about our presentation, we probably want to amend that then, that we're not asking you to cancel the contract, we're asking you to amend the Municode contract.
Is that our only option would be to amend the Muni code? Is there other options?
I
In
guess
your opinion?
my question is, why do we need Municode from here on? Once, when we start, what do we need them for? Why are we paying them?
I-
We've already got what we need up there,
Because
is why to continue to pay them?
I don't know if we are paying them.
Okay.
I don't think we
Are
are.
we?
I think it's
So-
a fee for service, so if they provide more services, we get billed for more work they've done. So we had talked about canceling that contract with Municode completely, but the Municode contract is all of the ordinances, general and zoning. So really, we only want to cancel the zoning portion of it.
Yeah, and I just went on the website and it is on here. It shows that it's not
Completed,
completed, it's not codified.
codified.
So
Like incomplete.
for me to understand this a little bit, so the general ordinances. We're not. Not under our purview, correct?
Correct. We
So-
have been asked in the past to help them write them. Mike can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we've been asked to help prepare them or write them because that's our kind of our wheelhouse, but we don't have any ability or authority over them. We could only just do it as a favor for
Right,
them.
if we're asked to,
Right,
we can't just take it on ourselves.
correct.
Okay, so I think the generals, I mean, can you look at these and tell
Yeah,
whether this is the generals or. Ordinances, 2053, 2052, 2050, 2049.
I can show you. Why don't I pull it back up? I can,
Never mind.
yeah, they're separate
Yeah.
chapters, basically. The zone in
This
the,
is not our township.
Did you go to Ohio?
There's a Whitewater.
There's a Whitewater. Let me show you. I did the same thing the other day. I'm like, I never heard of this before.
I'm gonna show you what, I'm visual, so I would just rather.
But I like that. I mean, if we're paying them now, which anything we're paying them is coming out of the general fund.
Correct, but we have to give them something to do.
Isn't that up to the board,
If there's nothing on here, then we don't have to worry about
not us?
it. I'm just saying if we don't have to worry about it, that would be great.
So what I'm saying is, so this is all what Municode's done. These are all these chapters. There's a bunch that are reserved blank. I open them, nothing there, right? Whoops. If I scroll all the way to the bottom, chapter 30 is what I had open, all 124 pages. That's the only piece that we.
That
have
belongs
control
to
over. Chapters 1 through 29, which most of them are reserved and empty, are general ordinances. That we have no.
So there is nothing on Unicode with Whitewater Township.
About reading,
So if we cancel the contract, we're not canceling anything that they're doing for us now.
I think so.
Would you anticipate the board to ask us to get involved in their general ordinances? Is that likely
I
gonna
think-
be,
I think it would be a good idea to have a plan,
yeah,
I
at
mean,
least
if-
consider it.
right? Because
Yeah.
if we can say, well, glad thanks for bringing that up. We thought about that too, but here, we're bringing you a plan.
Rachel, your power code came on board.
Oh, that's.
I mean, Randy, I don't want to even touch those generals till we
Thank you.
at least get our work done, but How difficult and how much of a mess are those ordinances?
I really don't know. I've just been looking at the zoning ordinance and trying to sort out what's what in that. I think that's a huge amount of work for the planning commission
So
to
once
get
we
the zoning
get
ordinance.
focused on that, and that's done, then maybe we'll take on the other ones.
So
But
maybe set it up as a phase 2 to be determined.
that's what I'm thinking. What are you thinking? Guys,
I think take care of this first.
Yeah. we
Yeah.
gotta Take care of our.
well, but
And this message we're talking about sending to the board, maybe we should just tell them that we don't think Unicode's services
that's
are
our,
appropriate for what we're doing. If they want them to look at the general ordinances, that's on their shoulders.
Yep.
Agreed.
that's a, well, you want to go, that's one way to go. Or we could say, hey, we'll work on it in phase 2, but I'm telling you right now, if you say you're doing it, you're doing it.
On
What?
the Whitewater Township, website. There is Whitewater Township zoning ordinance. Does that include everything?
That's just the zoning ordinance.
That's
Code
not
enforcement
general.
policy.
The generals are not on there that I can
No
find.
general
The generals are
benefit.
not even,
No.
The zoning ordinances are, but what you see there is up for discussion if it's accurate, because there's draft on some of the documents. We don't know if amendments are updated on
Okay.
there.
About a third of it says draft.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I think we're still good with the way we're going then. I think cancel the Unicode contract. It's not doing anything.
but do we need, so we just need to be prepared to specify, we mean for our portion,
For our
the
portion.
zoning.
Board
Right.
wants to keep them for the generals, then that's the board's decision.
Yeah, let them make a
Is-
decision.
Any of those that we were looking at there, general, I mean, did they actually look at some of the general too?
Yeah,
Yeah, they did.
Okay, so they did
Yeah.
both. Okay,
so they may want to still use that. They may want to still hire Municode to finish the general ordinances. But that would be, and I don't think it even has to amend, I'm gonna guess it doesn't have to actually amend the contract because they're just going to be billed for what they do. If they don't
Right.
ask them to do anything for the zoning, then they don't ask them to and they don't get billed for it.
we might not even have to even cancel the contract.
That's how I'm
That's
viewing
how
it,
I
but that
look
might be a
at it.
question for them to talk out in our joint meeting, this is,
Well, hold on a minute. Didn't Cheryl send us a copy of the contract or no?
it's
Yeah, we
in
got a
this,
contract.
it's in this
So-
book.
It should be, I saw something somewhere. It should look on that contract and see what it says. Then we'll have. Last thing I want to do is have to have them give us an answer because it takes like 6 months to get something.
I thought it said it could be canceled by either party with like
With 60 days.
60
Yeah,
days
right.
notice, so.
I guess the question would be, not canceling or not,
I didn't.
can we use a piece of it? We don't have to use you
Where
for
are you
everything. Is
looking
it fee for service?
Two.
Well, the real message we're trying to send to the board or ask the board is, we would rather have Randy do our
Right.
work than
Right.
Unicode. And so we don't have to cancel the contract with Unicode.
Yeah.
And therefore Unicode's still available when the board gets around to dealing with the general ordinances.
Yeah.
Or if they ask us to do it.
Right, at
And
least we
we
still,
decide it's above our,
pay grade, here you
Right.
go back. Exactly.
but the message to the board needs to be that we would like to redirect who's doing the work. We think we found a better
Have,
entity, yeah.
So it looks like they're paying, $1,195 annually. Keep Unicode.
Is that
Just to
after
keep
they're,
it available to us?
That's what it says. I mean, my Unicode value pricing is marked,
but is,
$11.95.
but is
Yeah.
that for after they're done to keep it on the website? Or is that just now while we haven't finished anything? I'm hoping it's meant at the end,
I
not,
mean, they spent what, $7,500 so far? What did they spend it on? It's gotta be in, I would think, but I don't know. All I know is what, $7,500 that they spent so far? I think. Yeah. And this doesn't split. I mean, I don't see anywhere in here where it splits general and.
I don't either.
So-
That's what I was
So I
looking
think
for.
what you said is we just take out the zoning ordinances. And we don't even have to touch this contract.
The contract has been basically stagnant for 3 years, isn't it?
yeah,
Yep,
Isn't that my understanding of this?
yep.
yeah.
That's what I understand.
But it's still valid.
It's
Which
still
is
valid
surprising.
until we ask them to do something.
I had I had been
Wait a
told,
minute,
not
it
read,
says-
I had been told that it expired,
Hold on.
but yeah,
Hold
but I
on.
haven't read it word for
Quote
word.
for Whitewater Township, November 19th, valid for 90 days. Here's the 90-day quote.
Yeah, it's only a quote,
So
and they
this-
actually signed it after the 90 days. But that's not reference, what references in here is it talks about the contract is valid for 3 years after they post the coded online.
We haven't put nothing on
We
it.
still haven't done it.
So that means it's still valid.
It's active. But
And then on the very first page of that, shows right there where you can, each party automatically renews every year. And either party can cancel or change this agreement within 60-day written notice.
But are we paying something a year or are we only paying
That
when
I
we
don't
give them something to work?
It says here a fee of $11.95 per year annually.
I think it says online code. I think it's talking about the online. Once you're done and you're online, that would be your yearly fee.
Doesn't
keep
say
it-
that, though.
It doesn't say that.
Oh,
It says includes Municode Next. I guess includes, so it could be more than what's listed there. It's on the website hosting quotation sheet. So that to me is once it's on the website, that's your fees, but I could be wrong.
Well, it is on the website.
It's not.
It's
No.
part of it is, so I think they could argue.
That,
No,
There's
that's
not.
just a,
It's not Unicode's product, though.
Here's an idea. Why don't I just call them up and ask them where we're at?
There's nothing on Unicode on our stuff. That was Wisconsin.
I think that would be great if you did that, Heidi, and let that
mean, why not
subcommittee
just call
know
them up
what
and
you
say,
found out.
Hey, why don't I just call them up and ask them where we're at with it? I'm sorry, I'll just call them up and ask them where we're at with it. I don't. Unicode.
I didn't call.
Seems like somebody did, but I don't know.
Did somebody call? Cause I don't want to reduplicate somebody's work. And no offense.
Somebody gave me a name of Tina or
Grease.
see here. Tracy Stefano. Okay, so I don't know, because what I heard might have been like prior years or something when they talked to her. I don't know when they talked to her.
Okay, so there's a contact for, her?
Yeah, I guess, yeah, in the very front, second page. Keep turning, right there, in the very front bottom.
oh, well, we'll just give her a little ringy ding.
So is that something you could report back to Keith for that subcommittee so he can share it at
I'll
the
just
next?
send them an
subcommittee?
email with my results and then we'll give her a
Perfect.
report.
Be great.
How's that?
Because they'll have a special meeting on the 10th, and so that he'll be able to report it on that. So that'd be your
And
due
that's
date.
May 10th?
Yes,
That's your due date.
that way we can reword this if we.
Gonna say, maybe we'll just do a conference call with her. How about that? I'm thinking that. Okay, be in touch.
That would be great, actually.
Mm-hmm. Get it done.
Thank you, Heidi.
Mm-hmm. Two's not a quorum.
What else, do you want to update us or share within the binder?
I just wanted to go over the binder with everybody, if everybody wants to kind of get it out. This is the thought that this is what we would present during our joint meeting to the board, so that we can keep them focused on what we want to talk about. So the first thing would be just our vision notes, basically kind of just walking them through on one page what we really want to accomplish here. And you guys can take these home. And if you could just kind of maybe shoot me an email, your thoughts, if you have any questions or something you'd like to see changed before the 10th. Sound okay?
That sounds good. So everybody's homework is to review this and email Keith with your thoughts, Keith individually, with your thoughts or updates and suggestions before the 10th. You're gonna want it by the 9th, probably,
By the 9th.
at least, yeah.
So on the first thing you look at there is just the vision notes with a couple attachments. One would be for suggested motions. that we would like to see out of this meeting. That, of course, is blank right now. And then B is actually an amended look at what an amended agreement would look like. That's something that I received from Randy earlier. And after that, it's just, so what the tabs will show, will be printed later when we're sure we're gonna have it where we're at it. But tab 1 will be the planning commission vision, which we're gonna go over here in a second. Tab 2 will be Unicode, and anything we want to discuss in Unicode, especially if we decide that, hey, maybe we don't even have to cancel it. Or we can just move on from them. 3 would be right now is Randy's independent contractors agreement. 4 would be the budget, which there's nothing in there right now for the budget. And then through Rachel's suggestion, I put the planning actions in tab 5. In case there was any issues that we wanted to bring up there. Now, under
Page 2, what is the hyperlink?
hyperlink, so if you look at a document, could be online. And you see it like in blue with maybe a little line underneath it. And you hover over that with your mouse, you'll see where it changes like to a finger. You can click on that. And if that says, like if you're looking at fences. And you want to look at what the definition of fences is, and I'm just making this up because I don't know if it's exactly what it would be worded, but if it says fences and it says this is how tall, and it cites maybe a Michigan law, and that Michigan law is hyperlinked, you would touch that and it would take you right to Michigan law.
Oh, well, I always call it link.
Hyperlinked, same thing. Okay,
You want me to show you one, Carl? Okay.
I see them all the time.
Well, my question is,
Little hand.
how does it work with your finger? Because I tried to get it to work today and I couldn't get
I
it.
think it's a double click.
I just never
Double
heard that
click.
word before.
So under tab 1 then would be the planning commission vision. Now, this is something we've already sent to the board. These are your words already that we sent to the board, and this is what they kind of tabled. But it's basically, it's the exact same thing that you sent. I just made the words a little bit bigger so we could look at it. It's got Randy's in attachment A, it has the different kind of ideas of how we want to add to the thought is that maybe each tab somebody could talk about, you know, with a different person of the board design.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. Good ideas. Everybody take a number.
So we could add anything on here that we want, but this is something we've already sent to the board. And tab
Give
1.
them an update. You're
What's
gonna
that?
go through this whole thing.
Right.
Okay.
And then tab 2 is, of course, Unicode. The first thing is the signature page, which talks about how we can cancel if we need to. 3 is North Place Planning's agreement that we have with them now. Then in the beginning, we talked about what we would like to change that to, amend that to. And then 4 would be the budget. And where we take money out of to do this, and the planning acts in the back. So thought is here is we would step through this as a team, and each person would take a different part of it. And kind of attacking, you know, and try to keep them focused on, like when we're talking on our vision. Like maybe Rachel will go through the first part of it. Just as a quick condense, this is what we're looking at to do. This is what we're looking to do. And then she could even take tab 1 if she wanted then, or somebody, and go over the complete vision of why we want to do it. And then as you go into Unicode, somebody else could take that.
Like I could do Unicode because I'm calling, so.
And then
Tag team or
the same thing with Randy's contract. Going to discuss on how to, we want to update or that or change that. And just stick it into just groups, little groups, and keep them in focused on one thing, not going from one to another. And try to attack it that way. It's just my thoughts.
It's a good idea to attack it because it keeps the meeting going and you're basically not, when you submit something like this, the people that want to know what you're doing. They want to just keep going. Okay, and remember, don't go 10 minutes, okay, you guys? If you're making your speech or making your notes, no more than 8 minutes. You're losing everybody after 6. So if you're gonna get up to the podium and present it, act like it's your 5-minute public comments.
So
Don't
I
you think?
think, yeah, but I think it was going to be a joint meeting was the idea too.
Well,
on
it
the
is,
17th, So we
So
would
they'll
all,
get to talk too, but you're making the presentation. Leave it to 5 minutes.
I agree.
Because they're gonna, and make sure you got your homework so that, maybe call one of your buddies on this committee and say, hey, here's my speech. Act like you're a board member and throw some questions at me. Don't be afraid to do that because you get great ideas when you talk to your buddy.
So I know that you guys have a meeting scheduled on the 10th to hammer out some more details. I know the one thing I would like the subcommittee to hammer out is what you'd want your sample motions to be, like specifically how you'd want those worded. I think that would be really important to get that done.
Right, and I think that's gonna depend on what we decide with Unicode. Do we have to, maybe we don't even have to, that's a huge thing with them is deciding whether to cancel or not. Truthfully, we don't have to worry about that to move on to what we want to do.
We might not be paying
Right.
anything right now. It might be an open-ended contract where like, you have with the lawyer, we don't call you, you don't charge us.
So what I'm thinking is where I kept mentioning we probably would need another PC special meeting is following your 10th, the meeting of yours on the 10th, before the 17th joint meeting, we would need one more special meeting with us to just hammer in the details and make sure we're all ready to present on the 17th. We know what our piece is, what our role is. We know this inside and out. So we're a cohesive team when we present this on to the meeting. So
Like everybody's got each other's back.
So I guess what I'm looking to get here is, how do you want this to flow? I guess I'm looking for direction on how you want this book to flow. If we're gonna go up there and do 5-minute pieces each, whatever the time is we're gonna do, what do you want to start with first? What do you want to go to second? I
go
just threw this
see.
together the way I thought it might work, but
I really like it. I think the only thing I would put at the end is the motions. We get through everything and that, this is our vision, this is our reasoning behind it, our proofs for why it should be this way. And then at the end, last page, here's some motions. Are you gonna take them or leave them or modify them? That would be the only thing I would change.
I was involved with something very similar to this once at work, like a presentation to fairly high management. And we were working with a vendor and what he did with the same thing, we each took made a video of us and we took it home and looked at it. And I'll tell you, I was not very happy with what I saw. So I stood in front of a mirror.
Carl, we all been there.
Yeah, I know. And I mean, that worked. At the end of that presentation, the chief engineers, McCullum said, this is the best presentation we've ever seen. Because all of us had a bit of it. And everybody, by that time, we were all, pretty confident in what we were doing. But they said that was the best presentation they'd ever seen.
Hey, all you gotta do is tag team it and everybody should hook up with a buddy. I got a buddy now for the. Pick each other's brains and, if somebody says something that's kind of off the wall, just go, okay, how you explaining that one in 5 minutes or less? It helps.
So I would like to real quick say that when we have this special meeting between the 10th and the 17th, that we practice it. We do exactly like Carl said, we hammer it out. And if we have to practice it 5 times, that's our whole agenda is finalizing this joint meeting.
And so everybody will have a book like this, us and the planning commission and the board. However, the planning commission will have one extra piece of paper in here in this folder, which will be our little Bible. Who's going to talk first? Who's going to talk about what? And it'll just go right on. So all we have to do is follow that.
Yeah, like have a little, what do you call it? When you go to a movie, you get a pamphlet, like a play, you get a brochure, you get a cheat sheet.
Yeah.
That's great.
So that's kind of what I'd like to hammer here a little bit is, what,
Who
how
does
do-
what?
my thought is here is the notes part is you should probably talk about first, and you decide whether if you want to leave out, the motions till the end, that's fine. But this note page here should be read to them at the beginning. And then after everybody's presentation's done, you should read it to them again.
Exactly.
We have our first.
I
This is
don't-
what we want to do. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I would say I agree. I think that you're absolutely right, and I will happily do that piece. I don't think there's anything wrong with mentioning we're gonna ask you for motions today, just
show them,
not
yeah.
telling them what they are until the end.
Exactly.
So those are the kind of notes, if you could just make on here for me that you
Mhm.
could send me, that would be great. If you'd like that changed, like I said, I've got. I don't have any feelings with this, so if you want to change any of it, just change it, just let me know. And then, who actually wrote this, the planning commission vision that we sent to the board? Was that Randy or?
I think I did.
Yep,
Okay.
Randy wrote it.
So, is that something that maybe we should get Randy to talk about? He should definitely talk about the examples in the back on attachment A.
I think it'd be a good idea for him since he's kind of like our engineer driving our train right now. What's your thought,
Well,
Randy? You want to buddy with it? We'll give you somebody to help.
Sure, I guess, though this was done though, I mean, this
Right.
was presented to them at a township board meeting.
Right, so
So,
5 minutes would be perfect.
so we just need to summarize that, as we told you before, this is where the planning commission sits as far as perspectives on on the zoning ordinance, and this is what needs to change if we're gonna move forward at all.
I think that's perfect coming from him.
And
Perfect.
I really think we got to look at this as they haven't seen anything yet.
Leave them, give them just enough to bite. Here we go. And we're gonna
Yeah.
keep going. Here's some
Because,
more.
you know,
Here's some
because
more.
They don't know what they've read, what they haven't read. And I think that we should just plan on it as they haven't seen anything.
Seen
yet,
anything yet?
And we're gonna explain everything right here. So do you feel comfortable with that, Randy, or would you like somebody to read the first part and you explain the back part?
I think it's helpful to come from me and a planning commission member.
Okay.
and
Then
that
you
it's
want to
not-
split it?
Sure.
Okay, who wants to be the planner's buddy? We only got 5 categories here. One's gone. Rachel took the beginning. So who wants to assist Randy?
I need your help, but I'll help you.
Of course.
Okay,
There you go.
I think this originated with you, and if I remember correctly.
Okay,
it's
so
pretty much,
So,
pretty much
no
looking for you. so-
That's
good deeds go unpunished.
So,
right?
that's done. You
Yeah,
code, you
and
and me.
Randy. Okay,
You
need a code. Is
You and me.
that all right with everybody?
Yes.
3 is somebody has to talk about Randy. Who would like to talk about Randy? Mike, would you like to talk about Randy?
I could probably do that.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Because I'm gonna throw Rod at the budget and I'm gonna
Yep.
throw Carl at the Michigan Enabling Act. Because I was already
I'm
pegging
thinking-
numbers.
Mike, everything's self-explanatory here. You just kind of gotta maybe ask Randy a couple questions if you don't understand something on here, but I think you could come up with something really good off of this, just with all the information that's in this book. And remember, 3 to 5 minutes, piece of cake. And if you need help, I call me. Okay?
So Rod, I'm assuming you'll do the budget.
I'm fine, sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I hoping
Save the
Carl,
best for last, Carl.
yeah, well, you're our Michigan Planning Enabling Act.
I think, on that, really need to focus on what
He
this
can't
means.
hear you.
to you.
Carl,
We really have
Brad?
to focus on,
We're on page 5. We're on the 5th
tab
chapter.
5.
Tab 5. Okay, and this is all about you, Carl. So let us
Yeah.
know if you can't hear.
And we're not expecting you to read this whole thing. I think we should just take out certain things.
The planning and enabling,
And maybe even out of some of the other books that might pertain to this.
Yeah.
You know, just something just specific to what we want.
Yeah, so if you can kind of just tell me what you would like, what excerpts maybe you would like out of it, I'll put that on a sheet for you.
I can, let me look into it. Look such it out.
And then the last thing again will be,
The motion.
Ending the
Rachel.
summary and hitting them with the motions.
Yep.
And
Or
you're gonna-
making, just
you're gonna
making the
take care of that.
Yes,
I
I'll do
think,
it.
I think the board pretty much knows all about this, but maybe not.
Well, I think it doesn't hurt to.
No.
It shows we know about it.
Here's just a thought. Tell me if I'm all full of baloney or what, but so if at the end we have Rachel and Heidi
Okay.
do the
Oh,
last
because
part.
she would make
Oh,
the
yeah.
motion.
You can actually make the motion.
Motions, yes, okay, perfect.
Never been in this position
Lois-
before where actually we had somebody
In
that
case
could
they're
actually
not
make the
watching
motion.
the meeting, I don't figure this out for themselves. Cause I would really like them to come prepared too, but they
I-
have to pay
I think
attention
this
to what
can
we're
work.
doing.
I'm excited. This
I
is
am
good
too,
stuff.
this is great.
Are we talking about the planning commission?
Right, for the motions, I could do the motions, I might not be able to vote on the motion. Is
I
that
think we
telling-
need you, we're gonna need your vote.
No, at the board level. I'm talking about in here, okay? You can't,
Alright.
you know what I mean? I can make the motion, but can't vote on the motion. Is that what you're telling me, Lois?
Just saying in this joint meeting,
Right,
you or vote maybe be more important there
Right.
as a board member.
Right, then here,
PC
right.
member In the joint meeting.
Correct.
And the question for that one.
Randy.
Is, yeah, that now that you present what had already forward with an explanation.
The planning commission vision as
the planning vision.
As
the
described
planning
in-
Commission vision,
attachment number 1 in the tab, right?
but I'll find out, Lois. I'll just call the.
If there's
attorney.
anything you want changed on it,
Yeah,
just
that's
let me
fine.
know.
Yeah, because if you can't make the
Add it
motion,
or whatever.
I can't,
either.
yeah, right.
yeah, I don't know. That is,
I'll get a clarification.
And a PC member.
Yep,
Should make a motion as a board member.
correct.
right.
So we might have to reverse it where,
We'll figure it out.
right.
Because I was
whatever-
imagining we were giving the, although we might all have to, if I know I'm thinking it through. We would
Maybe.
all have to do it separately, like the PC would have to make the motion.
We'd have to pass it
Or
here.
we only
and
asking them
Send
to-
it up there. Why don't we, instead of giving them the motions that we want them to have, why don't we give them examples?
Well, yeah,
That's what we
an
should do.
appropriate motion would be.
Because then we don't have to worry about voting or making the motion or whatever.
Well-
Just give them the,
I think what Lois is saying, and I think it took me a second to figure it out, but I think what she's saying is it might be better for you to be on the township board for this meeting
oh, God.
and not on the planning board. Because, is that what you're saying? Because you can't be both?
No, she's talking
can't
about
vote in
voting.
both.
I
She
can't vote in both.
On the same issue in both committees. She can only vote on the issue one time.
Unless
So
I
if she
have,
votes on it in our group, she can't vote on it in the board.
So if she just doesn't vote on it here,
Then she can-
abstains, then she can vote on it.
unless you need my vote, to get it to go through. It's the same thing
I'm
with
gonna
the con,
guess
right,
in a joint, the board trumps it, so while you're the liaison, you could probably help present stuff and do things like that.
but
But
I probably can't vote.
you're gonna have to be a board member for the voting. And
Right.
so I don't know why
Yeah,
you
but
couldn't
I
make
don't
a
think there'd
motion
be-
we're recommending the board make.
Right.
You can make the board's motion. We just gave you an idea of what to say and you're making it. You're running
Right,
with what we gave you.
I get that, but
Okay.
at this meeting, are we better off giving them examples of them? We're giving them examples of the
Yeah,
motion.
yeah.
Okay, we need to make sure that somewhere on it, it says, here's some examples.
Well, Rachel's
Yeah,
actually gonna
right.
say that.
That-
Yeah,
say-
what
well,
it- what
but
we-
It needs to be defined on that piece of paper too,
Okay.
probably.
So what I learned is that it's what you say is an appropriate motion would be.
Yep.
So you're
Okay.
suggesting this, it
Right.
can be tuned, it can be picked apart, it can be thrown out, but it's an option. So that's how we would word it. An appropriate motion would be. I just recently learned that. myself, so.
So I was thinking that in this joint meeting, there's probably not gonna be any voting anyway, so it. I think-
Not for the planning board. We'll have all of our votes done.
So at our special meeting is where we would,
Got
we're in a, everybody's in agreement that this is exactly what we're doing and going forward with. So,
Correct.
so our special meeting agenda is essentially finalizing and practicing
Yeah.
that's it. That's all we need to do for that special meeting. So should we schedule that, right? Should we look at when we should do that right now? And we would have to, Lois, question for you. Can we give them these binders at the meeting, or do we need to give it to them 48 hours before and post it electronically 48 hours before? Because it's a special meeting. I mean, ideally, I think we want them to have it early so they can digest it maybe. But what is the technical requirement so we know for our timeframes?
Technically, you don't even have to give.
That's right. You don't have to give them anything.
Just a
Nope.
notice is all we
Just
have.
the
to-
notice.
Up to you how to have this to digest
Okay,
it. That's the thing.
I think,
okay, that's,
welcome to our club.
Here's.
We're gonna present it to you.
Here's what I'd like to do with that, is, these books, we're gonna present to them at the meeting. But I'll put it all in a PDF format that we can send to them.
afterwards.
Afterwards.
I was,
No,
yeah.
no.
But see, if you were asking them to make a decision without having a chance to
Right.
review that
Yeah.
much information, that's
Yeah,
not fair.
I agree.
It's blindsiding.
Right,
That,
but
that's why I hesitated when you asked me if I want to speak and present. Would have preferred to look this information over before I committed. So,
Mhm.
and I can't hold them to a different standard.
well, I get that, but we're just showing them are we not just showing them our expectations at this point?
I think an expectation would be if they were gonna call us to a meeting, they would give us a heads up of what we're gonna talk about. So
So
we
why
weren't
don't we
blindsided.
just give them a piece of paper with a heading? So they know what's gonna come at them, they just.
I mean-
don't know how or what's coming at them.
I mean,
Guess my question
essentially,
is,
this,
What's wrong with letting them have the book to
Yeah.
review first? I mean,
most
They're-
of this they've seen, right? They know
Right.
the planning. It's nothing, we're not hiding it. They could watch us right now and know
Right.
exactly what we're gonna do.
I mean, Randy, how do you think we should present it? I'm just trying to do the lesser of two
I
evils.
think you should give it to them ahead of time, just like a packet. I
Yeah.
mean, that
Yeah.
way if they've already, I mean, I don't think we're trying to ambush or surprise
No.
anybody here. We just, here's what we have, here's what we'll talk about. Look it over if you have time before the meeting, it'll make it easier for you.
Put it in a
And
PDF document, we can email it to them. And then
where
these
we can-
books will bring to the meeting, because I want to make sure that they actually bring them. I want them when I'm
Yeah.
here.
Well, and I think, technically we can post it. It's an open meeting. The public can view it beforehand too. I think it's fair and it shows us being upfront,
Transparent.
honest, and yeah,
Right.
it's
Yeah.
modeling the behavior we want.
that's probably an important point, is the public gets a chance to see this too. And
Exactly.
they made it proper comment.
They might want to make a public comment. Yeah, I think so. I think that the answer is 48 hours before we need to have it available, which means we would need to have that meeting that we finalize it and prep it rather quickly.
Isn't that other meeting's on the seventh? When is it? The
It's the
17th?
10th.
That's,
So we would need to have this packet Monday available to them, Monday, the 15th. So we basically have to meet the 12th. Because I'm having a procedure on the 11th and it won't be coherent. So the 12th is the only day I can do it.
okay, hold on, let me look at the
And
calendar.
if you can get me your suggestions sooner than the 9th, that would help too, because it's gonna be a lot of, for me, for a couple days to.
Put an hour, 2 hours of time on Monday for me, please. I'll be in touch.
So on the 12th.
a
What's,
Special meeting.
yeah, we're gonna have, I think that's about the only day we can come. Is everybody available on the 12th? Any times of that day you're not available?
What date is the 12th?
The Friday?
No.
Um,
Is your meeting on tenth at night or during the day?
Morning.
Why don't we do the tenth at night?
Well, won't, isn't that a prac meeting? And don't they fall?
No, the pracs on the 16th.
Well,
Do we need a special meeting the 9th, the 10th, if we're just gonna, I mean, you guys are just gonna give me updates of things you'd like to see changed, and I can get it changed by the 10th, and then we meet the 10th as our special meeting. I don't
Then
know,
you
just throwing
wouldn't
out
need
ideas.
to have a meeting.
I think
Yeah,
you
just
guys
thinking,
were
do we
gonna,
really Need to have
The
a meeting.
9th is subcommittee meeting, right?
That's a board meeting too.
That's a township meeting.
Yeah.
Ours is the 10th. No, the one special meeting we were talking about would be the 10th morning,
In the morning.
well,
be
let's,
Wednesday morning.
let's recap what all of you guys, what needs to be done, because I thought there was quite a bit for you guys to do, like, sample motions. We all need to review this and get you our updates. So that would need to be reviewed. Heidi's gonna get a hold of Municode,
Monday.
highlighting and pieces of the enabling act that that are pertinent. I mean, I'm not available during the day on the 10th, but if you guys wanted to keep that meeting and make that a PC special meeting, I can definitely probably watch part of it.
I'm kind of iffy in that, and that Sue's having surgery that on the 9th. So-
So yeah, you're tied up on the
so-
10th.
But I can watch.
We'll just plan to go ahead with that and get everything done that we can get done.
What about the 11th for a PC special meeting? And if I can, I will be here, but I probably won't. Like I said,
The 11th
yeah,
at night, I wouldn't be there.
Yeah, I can't take that.
you can't do it at all on the 11th.
I could do the morning. I can do the morning. I can do any time till about 4 o'clock.
Are you guys, you're not available on the 11th?
No, I think we wouldn't have Mike either
Oh,
probably.
right.
So I think if we're gonna start going during the day and in the middle of the week, we're gonna lose a lot of people. I think.
We were only doing it for one time
Well,
because we're pressed
well,
for
that
the
doesn't,
Friday.
it's not working right now.
Right.
What about Monday, the 15th, and we get that out to him on Tuesday? We're still within, it's a day early. It's not the end of the world.
could
What
do
if we meet on Monday, the 15th?
Hold on.
All right,
That work in the evening?
I'm open.
What time?
Monday, the 15th?
The time?
what time?
No.
But
For us, what?
We get,
For May 15th at 7? Well, let's take it. I guess so.
Divine intervention.
Right.
It's 7.
7 o'clock on Monday, the 15th. And then we will have that packet to him by noon, by golly.
By golly. gee
By golly, we'll have it posted and ready on by noon on Tuesday, which is more than 24 hours before.
Can I make one request? Keith,
Oh, what?
on hyper, you gotta remember, not everybody is computer savvy. So if you're gonna use hyperlinks somehow, can you?
I am
make
not
them-
doing hyperlinks in the packet for some.
I get that, but when you do the hyperlinks, can you do like parentheses, click blue box? Just so that like somebody that doesn't know to click the box, because normally they'll have the blue line and they'll have click here. Just a thought. Only because I get phone calls about, what am I supposed to do? Click, please click.
No, the special meeting, so far, we've been talking about processes and the PC workflows and our mission and such. We haven't talked about, do we take any of the survey and the master plan information into that meeting. Is that an
Oh,
expectation?
you know what? Maybe this should be box number 6. Because
Oh,
we
I think
already
so.
voted to use it.
You think so? Or you?
Yeah. I think the town board's gonna wanna see
They,
it.
that is the request we need of them to, you're right.
So we either need this needs to be 5 and the planning act needs to be 6, or because this is so important and it's so nice looking, should we move it up?
Well, it has to be separate, so it either has
I
to be
get it,
first or
so-
last,
Well,
and I think it should be.
how about after the vision?
No, it can't be mixed in, it's gotta be.
I think it needs to
separate.
be last.
No, you think
Yeah.
it needs to be last? Like, surprise, okay.
No, they know we're working
I
on it.
get
It's like
it,
we
but
have to do it.
I get it, but this is impressive. It really is. So it's a good way to end the presentation, maybe?
It could just be separate, it's just a one last separate thing. If, if we decide we have time and we can do it,
What else do we need? That's a
No,
good
Denise
point,
left.
Rod.
We could have
Thanks
Denise
for-
be the representation for this. She lost.
So what else are we gonna need get to that money part for them too, right? I mean,
Yeah.
We're gonna ask them for the
Yeah,
budget.
I think all of the momentum that we have needs to at least be discussed at some level. If the money side of it, the timing is gonna be really important to the board, I think, because resources are gonna be significant. We're gonna have to find places to have meetings with citizens to talk about, what are your thoughts? Here's what we're thinking about, whatever zoning ordinance changes or, just that give and take. Do we need the school, as a facility where we hold these meetings with the public? I think there's a whole layer of involvement we've got to get them thinking about. We don't have, the timeline yet, but I guess if we could say we take that 2-hour meeting and you get an hour and 15 minutes, and then the master plan and the survey gets 45 minutes, and then we'll work on a parallel set of inclusions. I don't know if it would be best in this book or a separate book,
maybe
maybe.
separate.
Yeah, maybe that is the right way to go.
I know the school will bend over backwards for us.
Yeah.
All we have to do is put it back the way we saw it. And
But that's a lot of us to throw together between now and the 17th and the 15th.
well, no, he's
Well-
using it as a phase 2, right? You were using it as phase 2. Basically.
What do you
You
mean
were gonna
phase
use it
2?
as- Like, we're telling them where we're going, or do you want to put the whole pie?
I think we
meeting.
want to put as much in there that we know is happening this year. So we can get them.
Right, so you're gonna put it on a flow chart? Or you're gonna give them a timeline?
Probably give
Yeah.
them a timeline.
I think Rod's got a good point there about trying to share with them the survey as well as some of the material from the master plan as written now, so that they haven't
And
seen
do
it.
that at
together.
that.
It's already done. I mean, it's in the packet. That progress is being made. This is part of a larger.
You're not
work.
really asking them for anything, right? You're just.
No, it's just more in sharing
Informational.
information and
We would be asking them for, we just approved. I guess it depends if we get the budget. The budget piece is a big piece
Yeah,
of this
yeah.
tab, and depending on how that goes, will depend on what we're asking for as far as master plan goes, because if we're given authority for our budget, we're asking for authority over Randy's contract, and I believe ultimately, ideally, if I remember right, the whole budget, our budget.
Mhm.
Right. If that doesn't fly, we want Randy's contract, and then we want them to approve whatever we need to keep moving for the survey or for the master
Yeah.
plan. So we have to have, it's kind of like depends on what happens, how
Well-
we proceed. Right?
there's really no point in having a budget if we have to go and ask for.
Yeah, if we got to
stuff.
ask
I mean-
permission, why
I mean,
give
what's
us
the
a
point of having a
budget?
budget? if-
Well, I think with the law talks about, this is where Carl you can look into that part of it, but where it talks, the law talks about not, not for the board members to sway the, the planning committee, you know,
Yeah, I
and,
just-
and basically that's almost controlling, you know,
Well,
what's,
doing,
what
by
we're doing
choice,
by-
you can't do your budget.
so, you know, that's a,
Because they've already approved the budget,
But we do report to the board.
correct.
but usually
They
when
tell us
you,
what to do, we don't tell them, but they can't, like in the master plan. They can't tell us to change something. They can't do that. They don't have to approve it. Refer it back, that, you know, we want to see. You know, look into these. Yeah, it says right in there that they can't change it. We
Okay.
can.
so if you
But
think of
they
your budget
can't.
that way, right, so if you think of the budget that way. You're controlling, you passed, we gave you a budget, you passed it. Now we have to be accountable for that budget, so
Yeah.
we go for POs, we document, we give, maybe once a month, we send them a budget report. Hey, that's a good idea, I need a report for the board, so maybe I just report the expenses.
In the master plan, we come up with it. Obviously, we need to know the board, who the board is, what they represent, and we should be going in the same direction. Another thing that is important, and I've been looking into it, it says right in here, we need to coordinate with the other townships and the county in our new master plan. We don't want to be doing something in our township that's exact opposite of another township. It's not supporting each other.
But as far as the budget's concerned,
The budget, I don't know anything about, and I don't care.
Well, that's
yeah,
what I'm
I've never
asking.
heard of it. That's up to you guys. I understand your point of view, and, and, we can ask for the authority to control it, to save them a lot of time and
Well,
aggravation, and to save us time, say, look, if you trust us, we can work a lot quicker to get things done. And we're gonna stay within the budget that you approved. The final authority is with the township board. They're the guys that are gonna go to jail if it's screwed up, not us. Well, but that's important. I just talked a few weeks ago to a friend that they got the people fired from the township board as the treasurer was hiring her daughter to do nothing. And the township supervisor knew it. And the people went to court and got rid of these people. So, that's important. You got to look at it from their point of view. But if they say, hey, you guys, we trust you, yes, it makes sense. Yeah.
How about if they get a report of how we spent the money once a month from
Yeah.
me? Would that help?
Was that part of what you were gonna put together? So
yeah,
Rod's
yeah.
on that, as
Yeah,
part of the
Yeah, the
subcommittee.
question is
Yeah.
whether,
Yeah, but as far as the master plan is what we're talking about.
no, we're talking about the budget.
We're talking about the budget, Carl.
Okay,
I think the question that we've got to resolve here is, we've got two subcommittees that are moving forward. There's one that is how the PC moves all of our work forward, the processes, the approvals, all of that. Then we have the master plan and the interface with the citizens of the township. That meeting has to represent both to the board, because, they're as big as anything they're gonna deal with as far as issues within the township. I really think we need to hammer out some kind of a schedule where both get proper representation.
I think that your meeting is tomorrow, right?
Yeah,
I think you're gonna have to figure out what you want to present.
Yep.
And then we'll just make two presentations.
that's
Do this and
fine
we'll
with
do
me.
yours.
Yeah.
And if you want me to be the, welcome to the podium, here's what the PC spent this month. I will be more than happy to do that.
Yeah, I'll do the budget for both.
Okay.
Because it's all in that one
Right.
cost center.
But see, now that you guys are gonna give your own report, I don't really have much to say. So if you want me to say, okay, here we are on the money. I
Yeah.
will go through it
Okay,
piece by piece. I have no problem doing that.
all right.
Maybe that'll give you some time for something else then. Cause I really don't have anything to say. If you're taking your own blurb, you're gonna tell them everything you're doing.
I think that's only because, it's only gonna be for this big meeting that we're gonna have.
Yeah.
It's gonna happen.
You're not gonna keep your blurb in the,
Our placeholder?
yeah.
Yeah, the placeholder is specifically for like ordinance changes, master plan updates, budget requests, because we need money from them. It's stuff like that. It's not an overall update. It'd be for very specific requests. So the report I see is something different than an action item we're asking them to. So my
Okay,
placeholder is for action items.
okay. You let me know whatever you wanna do.
Okay, so you guys tomorrow are gonna hammer out that piece of us and and then when we come back as the PC, we'll finalize these two presentations and everything like that. So since you're on both of those subcommittees, it will be helpful to you when you go to the one on the 10th. to
Right.
Tell them, well, we're gonna need this much time
On the
roughly.
15th,
You have the 10th
it-
with that group.
can't make that one.
Yeah, well, if you can just send me,
Yeah,
you know, what you have and your
Okay.
thoughts and.
all right.
Okay. Let me know what I can do to help, because I can't attend the meeting tomorrow and the day meetings I can't attend unless,
Sure.
but I can help from those sidelines. So if I can help you with your budget stuff or something like that, let me know. I would like to understand the budget stuff better. I think I need to, so I would love to get with you on that.
It's just like your household and business budget, Rachel. It's just got separate categories.
But the process, the steps for. Yeah. Okay, so I think we have a good plan. I have quite a list that I'll send out. Anything else on this topic of the subcommittees and the presentation for the joint meeting presentations?
Just have one concern yet about the budget is, you know, if we're gonna go to them and say that,
Microphone.
I'm sorry, but my concern about the budget is, when we present this, we're asking for money for the ordinances. We're gonna be asking for money for, the mailings. And yet we have this big monstrous thing out there yet. What happens when one of the trustees says, well, how much do you have to spend yet? And do you have enough to do the master plan?
Well, what I would say is, in my work in budgeting in the past, when you put together your annual budget, that's a type A estimate, and you can be off by 50%. I think that's where we are right now. I have a feeling that it's going to be more than the $64,000, just because experience tells me, as you fine tune and you find things that you hadn't thought of, you're going to add to it. What we need to do is make sure that the board is thinking that if we're missing, where are they going to move money from?
Well, and I think that's where we have to be ahead of it. And kind of,
Well, we come out of the general fund.
you know, say like, you know, this is our plan and we're not just shooting into the wind. We have, you know, an idea of what's going on here. And I don't know if we're really low in fund. I mean, there's only 22,000 to spend in this type of stuff.
32,000
Is it 32,000? So
professional services.
professional services. So all I'm saying is that we should at least look at that and have something that we can show that, say, maybe Randy could give us an idea of what costs are we going to incur yet to finish this master plan.
That's a good idea.
And because if I was sitting on the board, that's the first thing I would say. Well, you want me to spend all this money? Do you have enough to do the master plan?
But first you have to educate them about, most people don't know that there's two, and when you sit down and have a big amount of money to spend, it's government. You can only forecast so much. Then you have to sit back and decide, how am I gonna get it? And that's the board's job.
An example I think I'm thinking of is when we have so much budgeted for salaries and wages, for example. And I think I heard the number thrown out, if you did, basically, if you do the math based on what that number is for 7 members, you'd have about 30 meetings. Well, typically we meet 12 times a year, once a month. Of course, we've added a lot of meetings, so I could see them saying, well, you're gonna be over in wages pretty quick if you keep meeting 3-4 times a month, you know, but I don't think that that's an answer in my mind to that is, we're playing catch up right now, but that's not the long-term game. None of us want to meet 3-4 times a month. We should get back to once per month very rapidly as soon as we get caught up. We're not here to be, you know, we're gonna be good fiduciaries of the money. It's our money, right? It's we're here for everybody. So I guess we have to send that message, but I think we ask for it all, likelihood not to get it. So then what pieces are we gonna say are most important? Randy's contract, and then we need money to move forward with the master plan. So you've got to approve these things today, minimally. If you're not gonna approve to give us our whole budget to manage, then we'll take as a consolation prize, Randy's contract and X, Y, and Z to move forward for the next 2 months of the master
really
plan.
don't- After sitting in the budgets, I don't see you having an issue as long as you show them, here we are, here's the cost. And if you're getting estimates of stuff, please get at least 2. Okay, just don't bring something in here with only 1 estimate. Bring 2 or 3, because you have to show how much it could be. And you need to let them see that it's from here to here. I mean, it could be here, here, and here. But at least if you show them what could be possible. I mean, they were fine with the budget Ron made. Ron made that budget, I do believe. So nobody really even they're like, well, we got master plan. I mean, so everybody could see where the money was gonna go. I think if we keep showing them where the money's going, it helps.
Well, I think Randy would probably agree that with the money we have with the 32,000 or 28,000, I think we are on step to get it done for what we want. When we look at Randy's
It
doing.
is. So I think the only caveat in that is we don't know how many workshops you want to hold. You know, it may be that gets traction. We're getting a lot done. We say we should have more of these. We should look into these issues. So that's somewhat of an unknown in all that. And there's costs associated with having those meetings,
Well,
because the meeting
yeah.
shouldn't just be, hey, let's all meet at school and talk about whatever comes to mind. We really got to
Right.
organize. We
Yeah,
have to
yeah.
organize. We
Might have to have
we have
facilitator.
we have materials to produce. We have, so much like we're spending time on the survey, framing the questions, we'll have to frame the way we create those workshops, and it's all good. I mean, if you want residents to come to a workshop and give up an evening, you really want to make it worth their while. You want to, have them in a setting that values their opinion, that they learn from, that they contribute to, and so it's a positive experience. And so, but that takes time and work to get that done. And there's a lot of good people on the planning commission. I'm sure that'll help make that happen. But there's costs associated with that.
Did we give the board a estimated cost of the master plan?
No.
No,
Yeah.
but they know it's required. I mean, we
No, I
have to do
understand.
it.
I know,
Yeah.
I'm just,
should.
when we asked for the money, did we give them anything? Did we just say, oh, we think we need this much?
No, there was
The
no,
supervisor made us our budget.
So
But there was nothing that came from the planning commission.
Oh, there was, but it wasn't a fully engaged master plan process.
It was
We were just trying to make sure that we covered Randy's salary.
Right.
I have a question, Rod. When you're working on the budget stuff, are you giving them if you give it to us, this is how we're gonna check some balances, when we're gonna report it to you, how we're gonna report it to you? Are you giving an overview of how it would look if they give it to us, so we know how to behave with it? We know what our expectations are? Or are we just saying, can you give it to us and then we'll figure it out? I mean, or maybe you already know how to do it and I just don't, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. Well, at this point, we haven't even had the first, March 31st was the first reporting month of the new calendar year. So I don't have any data yet to even go back and draw it into our budget. All I have is 64,000.
Your budget starts April
400.
1st,
Yes,
so
yes, April 1st. Yeah, yeah.
you still wouldn't even be able to recap it yet because we haven't even paid the bills yet.
That's right. That's right. So I don't have anything to say, oh, here's our first invoice. This is how it goes into the spreadsheet, yada, yada. But, yes, each project that we have should have a dollar assignment if there's going to be money assigned.
Okay, you have one to give them. We ordered the MTA books.
Okay, we can do that. But all of these projects we're framing that have cost, that needs to be part of a plan too. You know, we have to have a work plan, not just a bunch of processes that we put things through. So, you know, ultimately, the board needs to see, okay, the master plan, here's the cost, here's the hours, here's the deliverable date. Then, you know, whatever else comes along that requires money or additional time from Randy or the zoning officer or ZA, zoning administrator, those things just need to be part of our managed plan. The work effort that is being processed through this group has to be managed.
I think I'm just so visual, I can't picture it because I was thinking more along your lines of like your sign off checklist type thing of how, if you give us the authority to budget it, this is where we're gonna track the dollar amount.
Okay, do you understand the process?
I guess I don't.
Okay.
I'm not visualizing
Okay,
it.
here's the process right now. Like, I needed to get us the MTA books, right? I just had to get a PO.
But we have to ask for,
No, you don't. You have to ask for a PO if it's under $1,000.
Who does that?
Right.
Who's in charge of
Nobody's
asking for
taught.
the PO?
Whoever asks.
Whoever asks for
Yeah.
it gets it.
So
It's
that's Any planning
like,
commission member anytime?
Mhm.
it's like our education. I'm not sure we're managing that plan as an individual person,
Yeah, you
but
are.
collectively.
We should submit it as a total cost to come out of the budget, yes.
Okay, all right.
So.
But it doesn't tie back to a particular
Not
line
plan,
item.
No, not
Yeah,
line item.
yeah.
It was
So
just like
eventually we need to know who's taking what classes, what's it costing, you know, and eventually we'll have to fill it out. There's very little history that is capturable from past planning
Nothing has ever-
commission.
so,
Okay, they just
so I
had a
guess to
budget.
simplify my question. Do we need control of our budget or do we just need
You
to?
already have it, Rachel. You just have to follow the process.
And nobody's told me the process
Okay.
till right now. I guess I'm totally.
$1,000.
Over $1,000, you need board approval? Yes, right? Over 1,000?
So that's
That's
what our question is. to
I,
them.
I, I've
That's what
heard
we're asking.
5,000.
I've heard 5,
Yeah.
I've heard 1,000.
Uh,
Wait a minute, 1,000 you need.
I will tell you, this is the
To the
part I'm going to
1,500.
need a lot of education on before we go to that joint meeting because I was really hoping to see it and like, because that's how I learn things. So
mhm.
maybe we can get together, so especially
Yeah,
if you won't be
yeah.
able to be at the next meeting because
Yeah.
I gotta feel confident going into this meeting, like I know what we're asking for.
Here's what I would like to see, because I think it's just too much. We're throwing so much at this, it's just gonna be too much. I would like to see, let's not necessarily ask for control of the money during this meeting.
Why don't I get
I
you a
would like-
definition?
What I would like to see is I'd like to see us to have a somewhat type of budget for that $32,000 that we could put in here. And that we could say, look, we want Randy to do this. We know we have the master plan out there. We have $32,000 that you've approved. We think that the master plan is going to cost us this much.
the unknown answer right now.
So are we just
Well, we're
add,
not guessing anyways,
But
right?
you can put a number to that, and as the planning commission say, we want to spend half of it on the master plan. Or whatever the number is, I don't know.
so
And-
is the
and
motion simply, we want 16,000 for recodification by Randy, we want 16,000 for master plan. Now we don't have to, we've just gotten it approved, so now we don't have to go to the board every time, we just submit the PO. Is that what I'm, is that, am I picking up now?
She's getting it.
Okay, am I starting to?
Yeah, so we're asking for, I think it's what, 7 to 9, so we'd ask for 9 for codification of
Right, the zoning
of the zoning
ordinance
ordinances. We'd ask for whatever we believe,
with Networks Northwest is gonna come out of that.
Yeah.
right? And then you've got, maybe the balance for the master plan and.
just lump it all in one. So.
Well, I would, so we're putting, I would guess we have to do 3 separate motions for the different, their different items. But then we can submit 15 or 20 or 30,000 POs up to that amount without having to go back through the board for approval. Now am I getting it?
But internally, the planning commission is deciding where to put the effort. It's on
Right.
the zoning, the master plan.
It's
If
on
we-
us. It's not on
I
them.
mean, If,
just
if,
have to
if we
follow.
decided that we wanted 6
No, I
public
think so.
workshops and we only had money to do 4, then maybe 2 go into the next year.
Really,
You
the
know.
biggest real thing we want to spend money on this year is the ordinances and the master plan, right?
Yeah.
That's it. That's
And I think we should divide that up, just like it says there for, 9,000, up to 9,000 for the ordinances and the rest of it.
Like, here's our plan, here's where we.
The master plan, we want you to approve this so that we can spend up to that amount, but have them come back every time.
Does the board need to approve that? They've given you a larger item of the,
Because we gotta come back anything over $5,000. Or $1,000, whatever it is.
What were you gonna say? Because I've heard multiple numbers of what our budget is, so I'm not.
I'm not sure what it is either, but
Rod, what's our budget? Isn't it like?
It's
30,
32,000
yeah,
for
32.
professional
Then what's the
services.
64? What is that? It's a different
Oh,
line. item.
that's total.
It's
It's,
overall.
it's the
Supplies, it's payroll, it's everything.
64,000.
Okay.
you should keep some of that aside for
Yeah.
like a meeting facilitation or other kind of.
Yeah, well, I can't imagine that the board would be naive enough to think that they have this whole project covered.
No,
one of the-
not even close. We
Yeah.
just did a budget for the year.
Just,
We figured you would, when I asked about the budget figures to Ron, I said, you're almost 2 years out to be ending, so you would have 2 budgets.
yeah. One of the pieces of that whole master plan that looks like it can explode is once you've reached your conclusion, you have your recommendation, then you have to carry all of that out to the public. The
Mhm.
public needs to hear it. They need to see it. You've got brochures, you've got,
It's a big
it's
expense.
an engagement that this township
Has never. done
probably has never experienced
Or done.
or done. And that's the way they do it today up here.
Yep.
It's, like,
a big
okay,
deal.
everybody come, we're gonna have that gymnasium at the school and we're going to tell you all the good news that you're,
Exactly.
what we've done.
Come one,
So,
come all. You need
yeah,
a town
so-
crier on the corner.
So I
Um,
mean, do you feel that,
Here's a
um,
question, Keith, this might
yeah.
help you out. Randy, what's the cost estimation for what we're trying to accomplish? Is there one out there?
Well, again, I don't know
Just for
that,
the master plan?
I don't know how many workshops
It just,
we're,
what,
we're
okay,
talking about.
look at the workshop.
talking
is,
about
how
3
many
to
things
5.
we need.
in there. I don't
I'd
know.
say 75 grand.
I thought
So-
125, so
75 grand?
what do you think, Randy?
Big-
I was at 125. Every time we meet, it's a big expense because everybody's gotta be paid. And then,
I'm talking about the master plan, not, well,
Right,
pays,
but-
our pays on a different.
no, I just asked him the master plan, the cost for the master plan. What do you think? From start to finish?
I'm not sure we're up to 75. We've got. But
Well, I did that, but how much do you, in the next 2 years, how much do you
next 2
think
years.
it would cost? What's the cost factor if I say Randy, I want to be done with the master plan in 2 years. How much should I budget? What would you tell me?
This is not a one-year deal. It's 2 years.
I can't answer that right now. I mean, I think,
Well, should we double the 75?
no, I don't think so. I
Should
don't
we
think-
go up to
That's
100
I think we have to worry about that right now. Let's take your plan.
Yeah.
I say we take 23, we take 9,000 for Randy and we take 23, up to $23,000 for the master plan this year.
And what's that leave?
And then at the end of the next year, then we have to ask for the rest, whatever else we need for it.
One of the things that
I
I learned,
think.
that if you can't ask for a lot of money if you don't know what it's to be, what you can say is, look, for having 4 of these meetings, we get this much information and we know we've missed a couple areas completely. Now, if you can give us money to do 2 more, we think we can come up with a much better plan. And that will be value to the township. You have, if you want more money, you have to explain why is this of value? If you can't, you're not going to get it. Well, I don't know about government, but you know,
That's usually how it
people
starts.
asked for $15 million to do this whole great big thing. All they got was 4. He says, if you can show management what this $4,000 million did or $1,000, that look, if you give me more, we can get twice as much for 50% more money than the last. So we had to be able to tell people, what are we going to get of value for this extra money? And if we can't, then you're not going to get it. And we don't know right now if we're going to need it or not. We just don't know.
So
We're
let
gonna
me,
need more.
Randy.
let me explain that. I spent most of my career as a consultant and you would do 2 things, a scope of services, a schedule and a budget. And all 3 of those are related, you know, it's really, what are you going to do? What's it going to cost and how soon are you going to get it done? So you got to have all 3 of those together to be able to make the budget number work. And I'm hearing a lot of different elements of the scope and the schedule and all that. So if you're going to get down to, you know, the dollars, we've got to have all those 2 other pieces together, you know, in terms of the scope, how many meetings are we having? What kind of follow-up, what kind of public engagement do we have after the plan's done? There is, as I mentioned before, almost a 90-day process that goes in before when the plan's done and it's getting public reaction. It's statutory, so you have to have that built into the process. What happens during that time? So there's, you know, whether you want to do brochures, I've seen poster summaries done of a master plan, you know, because for the most part, you have a master plan that is a book that's 150 pages, 100 pages or whatever. It's great. It's got a lot of great information in there, but then who picks it up and reads it? So if you do it in a summary, then you can hit, here's the main points of the master plan. Here's what we want to do. Here's what this town looks like, or this community looks like in the long term. So there's things like that we can do and explore. So all that's up in the air yet as to
Because
whether,
it all costs money because you don't know what process you're. gonna
Well,
right.
think of this thing is going to have more legs than any of us can count today,
Mhm.
you know, as it starts moving forward. We started out, you know, basically with a ROS team just doing
A survey.
a survey. And as we're looking at it, you know, this thing, it's starting to get bigger and bigger. The last thing I'd want this group to do is to underestimate the cost. Or try to do it on the cheap. I mean, that's what you get.
I think I took the suggestion of 9,000 for the zoning ordinances and 23 as that's all we have available to us right now. So we ask for access to what we have available. When we run out of that, then we are not done. We go back and ask for more. But this just gives us control over what we have right now.
I think that's perfect. It gets us started. Until we get started, we don't know. Randy really doesn't know, I don't think, until we get
Right.
going. Once we get going, we'll have an idea.
You know, I think this community is really thirsty for a really well-written, very clear and inspiring master plan. And that kind of stuff takes time and effort and it's worth it in the long run, I believe.
Mhm.
But
You said there was 3 things. Scope of work.
yeah,
Scope of work.
scope, budget
Budget.
and cost.
And this, we're talking about the master plan, right?
Right.
So do we have a scope of work for the master plan? yet?
No, we don't. We have a general one in the contract that basically identifies 3 phases to the work: the information gathering, the community engagement, and the plan development. I mean, that's really how all 3 master plan or 3 key elements of a master plan are. It's kind of generic. But a lot can fit in the middle of those, in those things, and that's what's somewhat breathable, based upon where the planning commission and the whole community wants to go.
If we show need and, just keep going like we're going. If you said, I always use the analogy, take your shoes off and make them wear your shoes. Or take your shoes off and put their shoes on. If you're sitting at the board level, spending the greater goods money, what would you want? What would you want?
And
You don't want your time wasted, right? What else? Want to make sure you have clarification. What else?
well, what I was trying to finish up is that I don't think we should go any further until we have the scope of work. I think it's not fair to your team. It's
No,
not fair
no,
to us
No, it's not.
to look at this huge thing that we gotta do, and nobody knows really, we haven't agreed even what we're gonna do. I think we should have some kind of scope of work that we give to the committee and let them run with it, but seems like we're just, tell me if I'm wrong, but it's like
No,
we're just
it's a-
floating. and
Yeah,
just
it's a
doing
good idea
whatever.
because we do not have an end result. We do not know what the end result is. So in order to get to that end result, we gotta have some.
It's, are we talking about the master plan or getting
Master plan.
control of the, okay, so we
Master
know that
plan.
the end result is the master plan. We know it has 3 phases. We're nowhere into the first one and
Right.
which is in the packet today, the planning, right?
Instead of using the word
Yes, sir.
control, why don't we get an explanation of their expectations of how you spend the budget? In other words, how you spend your money. I mean, I'll look through that big book I got, but I highly doubt it's in there. Because you know you gotta have a PO and then you gotta have board approval. Well, I think we should ask the
But-
clerk.
But we stopped with, I mean, they can't control us. They're sort of in a way controlling us by having control of our budget. So we know that we want that.
All they do is approve your budget. All they do is approve your budget. Okay? All they did was approve your.
If that's the case, we wouldn't be going back for and asking for this.
I just
We
wanna
didn't
finish
have
my
anybody
point
to
before
write
I
the
forget
budget.
all this.
Go
So
ahead.
my point is that just like any project, you have a flow chart, right?
Mhm.
And I think you had talked about that earlier, but it's like, we should be able to see, where we at? What steps are we doing right now? What's next? Where are we
Those-
moving with it?
So some of that's in the proposal that you have, that's in the contract that was put there.
And then-
But there wasn't specific dates or milestones. At one point, there was discussion at the planning commission of, we just need to tweak this existing master plan and be done. And
No,
so
that's not right.
so that set the hair on my neck high because I didn't think that your existing master plan is really all that valuable.
Mm-mm.
And
So I can take that contract and I can make a
Sure, yep.
Mhm.
plan.
But I
Take a look
think
at it.
here's where we're getting a little confused. And I'll check this out, trust me. But when they asked for a budget, okay, most of you weren't here yet when I had to give the budget. So I went back to the old budget and said, Ron, how did you come up with all this? And then I asked Randy, what do you think? How much do you think we need? What, am I focused? Blah, blah, blah. And Ron just said, I did your budget already, don't worry about it. Nobody even questioned our budget. Okay, it wasn't even questioned. So now we have to figure out, I think what we need to know is the process of what we need to do to spend that money. Because I don't think Rachel, I don't think they're controlling it, okay? They're not controlling it because it's our budget, but we have to follow the rules and we have to submit the proper paperwork. Just like the books.
What we're lacking
okay?
is the internal controls in the planning commission.
Right.
And I think that's what Rod's getting at.
Yeah, well, just to show you the complication here, just building the survey questions and going through that process with an outside Corporation helping us in starting your workshops. That takes this team to September. And then all the other pieces that nobody's working on. And we only have just one piece. We don't have an organization, a PC organization working on the-
Other
the
pieces.
bigger, yeah, the whole project. So we need to really start thinking about that because, you know, this is really a small focus.
On
And
the bigger picture and the bigger bill yet to come.
yeah,
I think we need to figure out the average cost of a master plan nowadays. But I think if we show them our budget and show them our plan of how we're spending the money and where we're at, and remember, we're only 1 month into this budget. I think if we, not this meeting, but June meeting, show them a report. So you'll have to get the bills out of the packet, see what was conformed to our budget pieces, which I know you know how to do. And then give a report based on that. Here's our focus. Here's what we've spent, what we spent it on. And here's what we have left. And here's the scope of next month.
So I think that I agree with you, but I also think that you made a really good point. It's the internal controls piece. So it's not control of us controlling our budget. I get that it's our budget. The problem is we have to wait for June to ask for something and hope they do it. We have to wait for the July to ask for money to do it if it's over what, 1,000 or 5,000. Am I understanding that properly? We want to be able to just say, boom, here's
Okay.
the purchase order, pay Randy, he can
So-
keep going.
So does the township have a procurement policy?
A what?
Or a procurement policy,
What is it?
Lois? I mean,
they do.
you probably would be the only person in the room that would know.
I talked a little bit to Ron about that and he said he wanted to he wanted to build something. He was hoping to put it in May, but I don't think he could, so. But he had talked about making it so that we could just do a
You know,
PO on stuff, so.
But that's what I'm
Right.
saying that
Okay.
that's already,
Purchase orders are the process.
Okay.
Planning commission doesn't need a new.
Okay, but-
no, we just.
But
no.
we have to follow the requirement. If it's over 5,000, it has to be bid.
I don't, nobody has
You know
taught me
what?
anything.
Ask
Well, they're
Cheryl,
more
how
than-
about this? Ask Cheryl that tomorrow, because that's her ballgame.
Cheryl says anything above 5,000, you have to get multiple bids.
Okay,
What if you're already under contract, say with Randy, and I just
then
want
you
to
would
pay?
PO it, I would think. Ask her that tomorrow, Rachel,
I would-
because
That's a
Yeah.
professional services contract, which is different than procurement of goods and services.
So we may be making a way bigger animal out of
You
something
are.
that's not.
you are. But
Okay.
it's
Well,
because.
then let's move on.
'Cause you
Yeah,
know-
let's just,
For
But when you
40
see her
minutes, and if it's
tomorrow-
me, the only one that doesn't understand it, then I
Well,
feel
let's-
really sorry for wasting all of your.
So let's just ask for what we need.
The process. Of
We don't need
what we
the process, just,
Well, yeah, we need to know,
we need for Randy's, that's what we need right now.
okay, but
If we need something.
But
for
then
the-
why do we need to ask them for the 49.50? We don't need to ask them for that. That does not need to go to them. We approved it as a
no,
PC
we.
and we're done.
It's a PC. We
Okay,
approve,
so
we
then it's
have
me
to.
that's not
okay,
understanding.
hold on.
Do we know that it's 5,000?
49.
But my existing contract is as written. That contract needs to change and put that under
Right.
the purview of the planning commission, and the planning commission then makes its decisions on where it wants to spend its money with me or anybody else.
That's already.
That's already in there. So
I'm
What did
sorry, I
they s-
overthought it.
it's okay. It's really easy to do.
yeah.
We just have to make sure we know the process and we follow it per period dot. cross your T. Does that help?
It helps me, but what we're missing,
Just a minute, Carl.
Carl, hang on.
what we're missing is we have a big project in front of us.
With no
That's,
end cost.
yeah, and we're competing with infrastructure changes that we want to do right now. And I don't argue either, but we need to find our capacity to carry these two things forward. Financially resources and strategically. That's what I'm concerned about.
Okay, well,
In that meeting in May 17th, we don't have all of our ducks in the row
We're in
to
trouble.
put on the table.
in
We're
trouble.
talking about maybe just one portion of the ducks. And maybe that's okay, but we need to, we need to start thinking about
Right, but
that.
we still maybe leave it as a open-ended ending to the meeting that we're progressing as quickly as we can,
And we've got
and we've got all
some
this
portion
place,
started.
right, we got
yeah.
this started, here's where we're at. In other words, like, if you could do a flow chart and just go boom, 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 boom. But and then say, our budget might run out here, you know how you look at something and you go, okay, the project's let's say the project's $10 million, okay. So then when you look at the breakdown and you go to the end of the day, and I'm submitting this to the board to say, hey, okay, my project's $10 million. Here's my timeline, here's my frame. But I'm gonna need you to match it, or I'm gonna need you to add to it. They need to be able to budget it just as much. We have an unknown budgeted item. So maybe I don't know how long it would take me to figure out. Maybe I'll just call a couple townships and see what they spent on their master plan. There's not too many that have updated their master plan, so it will be really easy.
But I'm wondering, does it matter? Because we know what we have right now.
Well,
We
yeah, it
run
matters because you wanna tell them we're within our budget at this time. But we're up against the unknown because this could be the final cost. It shows them that you at least know, I'm here right now, I spent this much, but at the end of the process, I'm gonna need this much more.
Well, I
And
think
it-
we already
that
had
might
that.
even be right.
I mean, Randy can give us, he's got more experience in this than anybody, and going to other townships, we don't know what obstacles they run into or how they did it. But just a minute, just a
Okay.
minute, just a minute. So we've got a guy here that knows what he's been doing. He's got a pretty good ballpark. Let's rely on Randy. If we think we're gonna need $10,000 to fix the zoning like we'd want to, okay, that's a number. If we're gonna need $30,000 to do the master plan, okay, well, that's 40. But until we get off the ground and start doing it, we don't have a clue what it's
Right,
going
well,
to do.
that's
So
what
what
I'm
I'm saying,
saying.
just a minute, Heidi, what I'm saying is we've got Randy, at one time that we had about 7,000 that we was thinking to fix the zoning ordinance. I haven't looked at contracts, so it may be more. Let's get the 7,000 we need for that. Let's get what we need to help Ron, get the surveys run. Let's get a dollar figure to get started on this, on the master plan. We're throwing out numbers anywhere from 50,000 to 125, but we don't know. So let's get it started. Then we'll have an idea. Once we get moving down this path, but until we start moving down and having progress, we don't know.
Okay, I'm a board member and I'm gonna ask you right off,
Mhm.
okay? I'm gonna ask you this question right off. You don't have an estimated cost for me, sir?
Yes, we do.
What is it?
We're gonna have it for you. We're gonna have
But you don't.
7,500 for the zoning ordinance. and we're
Okay,
gonna-
but I already gave you that. It's already in your budget. I'm playing devil's advocate
Well,
here. I
if
know.
that's the case, then I guess Randy, let's sign the contract.
Well, what I'm trying to tell you is you have the money. You just have to get the PO and document what you're doing with it. But
Okay.
Oh,
I-
then that-
We're
I,
past
I
that.
think we can get some,
Definitely have to move
He
on.
wants
We're
to
at
give them-
9:42.
you want to give them an end number or not?
I want to set an expectation that.
You have to have an expectation. What's our end result, Al?
We
We don't know.
let me,
Heidi,
I
Heidi,
would
we
love
don't
it if
know.
the ROS team could come back to us and give us kind of hammer out some of those details, maybe. Is that a
Oh, that's an idea.
appropriate way to move forward for now?
Yeah,
Because
if all we're saying is the survey and the initial completion and validation of that survey, yeah. But beyond that,
And I think it's appropriate to say this is the tip of the iceberg. We
It
know there's
is.
gonna be more.
It is.
I
Yeah.
don't know that we have to have a finite number.
so we can
by-
assume that there's so many public workshops after after that. If that is not the case, I mean, if you find the need for more of those, then there's a budget adjustment or the process lengthens into another year.
This could take 3 years. You don't know.
It could, no one wants to start with that expectation, but,
No.
No.
you know, I also wanted to point out the fact that, you know, there's been 6 or 8 months worth of, 6 months or so worth of work that's already been done under last year's budget. So the material you have in your packet today is already paid
Already
for
paid for,
under last year's.
because your budget goes from
And all
April
of
to
your
April.
salary comes out of a separate line item.
I'm not sure where it comes from. I don't know where that came from.
I
It didn't,
think his salary's under the supervisor, but I'm not sure.
It isn't.
Isn't?
I
It's
looked,
in-
I looked there and it
So
isn't.
is it in the
Okay.
PC
It-
budget?
It is.
It's in ours.
It's in ours, isn't it?
Think
No,
so.
I don't think so. I think it's. in-
Well, then it's hiding.
Well, that's a good question too then, right? So, okay. I'm gonna move us on from that though, because we are right down to the wire here. In the packet, I included the salary and wage schedule from 23-24 because I think it was pertinent, because I spoke up at both subcommittees about subcommittees being able to be paid. And then, of course, April hit and we all got a raise too. So I thought that was valuable information. The next thing that you'll see is the township board memo that I included for our placeholder for the meeting on the 9th. And there's 2 requests in there. One is to officially request that we have this joint meeting on the 17th, and you'll see I gave them an appropriate motion. And the second one is regarding Lois's services for our subcommittee for the recording secretary and the Zoom facilitator fees. I became aware that she's volunteered her time thus far to us unless we get approval from the board for that. So maybe that's where my head was hung up, that every little thing we do has to go through the board because that's our budget. We choose to have these subcommittees, but yet we can't pay her. And I just assumed that was a given. And so learning that wasn't has me wondering how we couldn't have a control over why we don't have, that's why I thought we don't have control of our budget, I guess, is where I came up with that in my head. So you'll see that on our behalf, I made that request. I was told I could do that for the whole PC because clearly we need it. And it was obvious I didn't have to run it through the team first, but I felt it necessary and proper to share it with you so you knew what I was doing with our placeholder. So that's all I had on that. The next thing is the subcommittee bylaws. Which was Randy brought it up because our bylaws don't really reference subcommittees and we're having several of those. So I hope you had a chance to review these proposed changes to amendment to our bylaws about subcommittees and your thoughts on that.
I thought they were very good. It absolutely was something we missed and I think it's covered it pretty good.
We gotta send this to legal? Randy?
I would send it to them, yes. Just, I won't expect any issues there, but perhaps
Do we gotta pass it first or get it back first?
I would send it to him and then have it come back next month.
Is everybody good with it or do they have any recommendations or changes?
So the one thing that's, Rachel and I sent this back and forth a little bit, but the one thing that was included there was this notion of an executive committee. If there were any questions about budgets, that the executive committee could act in between meetings.
I don't think we saw it.
The other material there is pretty much what we're doing, just writing it down. We kind of stumbled a little bit with the committees and realizing the bylaws didn't address it. So
What page are those?
It's
bylaws?
19.
19?
I know I read it.
I got my budget notes, Randy. Maybe I wrote where your salary is.
Has everybody reviewed it and good with it going to legal as is?
I am.
Thank you, Mike.
I'm good.
Okay. I
Okay.
say, and Randy, you'll send that?
I'll send it on to them.
Thank you. Now to the fun part, the exciting part. I hope you read this because I learned a lot reading this next 50 pages or so. Go ahead.
Quite a bit. If people didn't get through all of it, I'd understand, but. So this is your first 4 chapters of the master plan, and I'm calling it working draft form. It is not final. It is essentially what's put together to describe Whitewater Township as it exists now. It's the 4 chapters. The first is the introduction. It describes what a master plan is, the legal context, the related local planning. There is in the township a recreation plan that is still current. So this document defers to that. There's a recreation plan that's required in local governments if you want to pursue DNR grants. So that it's a 5-year plan, and that one was, I think it's got 2 or 3 years left on it. Spent some time talking about the relationship between a master plan and a zoning ordinance, and then the planning process, which of course is unfolding. There's a chapter here on historic context. There's a lot of history here that is interesting. There's probably more than I usually would put into a document like this, but I think it's pretty interesting what was here in the township and what's gone now. It's striking to me. So there's a blurb on that, and special thanks to Luann Snyder and the Samuels facility for sharing some of their insight. The bulk of this is on the present conditions of Whitewater Township that describes its regional context, where we sit in a larger region, the organization, the demographics, some social economic characteristics. There's a blurb there about the landscape here. I thought it was interesting that there are really 5 different separate areas in the township, at least when I look at it, that are very distinct. So there's some description of that. We talk about the floodplains and the wetlands, and then also transportation and mobility, as well as public facilities. All this information is really just intended to bring everyone up to the same level of understanding about what's in the township. I would not say that this is everything that needs to be here. If you see things that are missing, please bring it to our attention. And then finally, we get into the important trends. It's a fairly short chapter, but there's information there about trends that are
Randy, I had
shaping.
a major problem. Most of it's very good. There's one item in here that I am really sick about, and I've spent 3 days working on it. You have left off the most important item of an employee
Mike,
of occupation.
Pardon me?
Al, put the mic in front of him.
You have you left out the most important occupation for this township. In this township only. It is the farming, fishing, and forestry. It is 2.9%. That's not a lot of people, but you have a lot of acreage in farms, and it doesn't take a lot of people to live there. It takes a lot of people to work there. We have a lot of people coming in year round. And it is 30%. Agricultural zoning is 30% and forestry is 50%. That leaves about 20% for everything else. Now, I have been up here for 70 years off and on, more than all of you, but Al, age. No, I have. I came up here in 1954, 1955 as just in high school and with some of my relatives, and worked in the cherry orchards in July on the upholstery farm. They let us stay inside. We didn't have to camp out in an empty room. They had no running water, no electricity, so they didn't need it, had an outhouse. But thousands, I think, hundreds or thousands of people came up from the south, Mexicans, people from Texas. They came up in stake trucks to work on the orchards. And we had a tent community for months up here. 10 years later, I came up as a tourist, rented a cottage for 2 weeks on Skeegamog Lake with friends of mine. And our paths have been identical since then up here. And 10 years after that, in
Real quick,
Se-
Carl,
75.
could you direct us to which page number in the packet could you direct us to which page number in the packet you're referencing?
Page 310.
310 of,
Well, is that not the packet? Where is this?
Because I'm reading about fisheries, so I'm getting a little confused.
Yeah, yes, here it is. On, page 29.
Okay.
29.
So under labor force occupations,
Here it is, yeah, it is. That's 49.
49.
49. Labor by occupation. The census data has clearly in there. Farming, fishing, it's 2.9%, pretty much across the whole district. And it has, and that's been that way for quite a while, and that's because mechanization has taken over. But it has been only basically for years. I've been here 70 years off and on. This whole township is agriculture. If you go from Elk Lake north, from Elk Lake Road north, from 72, you will come to a cattle farm on the left, just out of town. That takes a lot of acreage. Just north of it, you'll have an alpaca and llama, small
So what
small
is,
farm. Then you have orchards, and a lot of them are new. There are,
I understand. So what are you asking that?
I'm asking him to put that back in the packet. It's important.
You want added to the
I,
master?
yeah, it's part of the census data.
Okay.
I don't think you
census-
should have taken it out
so
because
what,
it is really important.
Carl, what is it? Can you give him a copy of that or
We
share it
have
with
that.
us?
This comes out of the earlier package
What earlier package?
that we had a couple of months ago, dated 3/10. Whitewater Township Master Plan Update 20. No, it says 2020. Oh, yeah, it is the census from 2020.
That wasn't this one. This is the first this has been released that I'm aware of.
I've had this at home.
Okay.
But it needs to be in there because
You
our,
want to put fisheries? You want those 3 occupations put in the labor force?
I want in the labor force occupations. I want that back in there, that farming and fishing. And it shows 18 employees, 29%, 177, 28%.
Resources wouldn't cover that?
Pardon?
Natural resources doesn't cover that, Randy?
That's the census data.
well, there's several different
Demographics.
sources of that we can, but I'm happy to take that in.
My point is, we're going forward, and one of the focus groups, I've talked to town, and on 72, we have today, we have a Kubota dealer, we have a John Deere dealer, and we have a Tractor Supply. That is all for farming. And if you go up Elk Lake Road today, like I said, there's a cattle farm that's been there for years. There's an alpaca and llama.
Carl, I don't think anybody's arguing with you about the agriculture of the area. Your request to add it to this,
It
This
is, the point
information-
is, these other occupations, those people don't have to live in our township. They live here or work here. But
it's data. It's just data
but-
and we can add at your request
but
additional
the
data.
point is, agriculture has been the whole history of this township to now. It may be declining. We need to decide for the future.
But that's
Is
not this
agriculture
portion.
important or not?
Randy, can you help me? Is that not this, is this not the portion of this? This is the data, the facts. This
Yes.
isn't the future yet.
But
It's not-
that wasn't included in the data.
that
and
and
farming-
you're asking for it to be included. So
Yes,
we're
'cause
saying that's
farming's the
okay.
most important, work in this, in this township. I've talked with, we tend to be going more to other areas, but still 30% of our county is devoted to agriculture. Are we gonna throw that away now?
Nobody's,
we're
no,
not.
no.
Well, we don't even mention it. It's not even
This is
mentioned
not
in
the
here.
final document. You have made your request and it's been taken. So we're gonna have to drop it because it's 9:57
Right.
and we have 3 minutes.
We have to put it in here, but you could
Yeah.
also consider I mean, I like the farming idea, but the other stuff could fall under natural resources, but farming should be in.
Because we're out of time,
Yeah,
let's
I'm just saying that
bring this back at another time and maybe you can get with Randy specifically on, you know, what
That's-
document you've obtained that information from, because I think I have to get permission to go over 10 o'clock to finish this up, don't I? I don't?
Okay.
No, you
Okay,
can just-
then let's just move along. So.
So a point of closure here would be to get, to have the planning commission agree to put this on the township website so that we can get additional comments from anyone else, and the planning commission members itself too. Like, there's other material on there now that is, might be confused with this, so.
Yeah, very outdated.
So do we make a motion to put this on the?
If you're so inclined.
Is that,
You're so
listen,
good.
if you think that's where this needs to go?
I do, I guess, but I mean, I'm hoping that there's additional comments from people in terms of the description of the township here, and I guess I would only,
Help to call or write in your copy.
well, I would ask for specific information to say, I don't like this section. You know, I mean, that's not helpful. We
I
need to
know,
get
but-
something that,
Are you gonna like, they pull this up, okay, so they pull up this master plan part.
you know what, maybe I should include some material in the front of it and say, this is a working document and comments are
Okay,
invited.
Why would I go there? You know, why would I go there? You know, why should I go look at the master plan? What do you need from me?
Well, I think we would direct people to it, for
Well,
example.
that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying, but I don't,
Okay.
you know, just throwing it up on the website, you're gonna need some, you know, guidance. Maybe,
See, there's other material on there now about
maybe
the,
that needs to get
that-
taken off.
it does.
Okay.
So you would bring us back something with an additional document that would go in front of it to explain what it is, why it's there, and
Yes.
what we're asking them to do with this information.
Yes. Would you want to see that before we do that, before we put it on the website, or just put some, that this is a working
I-
document?
I would,
You would like to see it before?
yeah, so to help explain.
Yes.
That it's a working document, we are looking for, we
And,
are looking for your input.
and he would be the best person to look at it because. he's
So
not
can we make
savvy
it a
with the
agreement that you review what he's gonna put for all of us? I don't know if that works, but then we don't have to
Just-
bring it back.
We're just sharing this with the community at this point. Here's our description of the township, and there might be things that need to be expanded or things removed. I mean, this is a working document as described here. It's,
Why
it's,
should, you know, I'm going through the website. Why should I click on it?
yes.
I mean, I think we can trust Randy to do a document like that. And
I don't see a problem with it.
Okay, I'll run it past Mike.
as long as he understands that that's
Run
what
it
we
past
want.
Mike. Just to make sure it makes sense and no typos. You gotta be.
He's our secretary. He's our secretary. But you know what?
Okay, so we need a
Mike, don't cut
motion.
that short because that's a special technique.
So we need to make a motion to remove the two, there's two. Do we need to identify them probably? I guess I need to go to the.
The prior, there's a thing on
We can just do a
demographics and
consensus.
transportation, I think, on there.
I'm sorry, I missed.
There's an element on demographics and transportation that is on the website now. That's older work that needs to be removed. Yes.
Oh, you can do website updates to our,
Oh, no, I can't. I need to have Lois
Let's
do
give
that.
him approval.
Okay.
Because I've been thinking they've been needing.
Right.
And then
so that's our consensus to remove those and add this document along with your additional.
Say make the recommended edits that Randy Mellon made to us, and let's make those recommended edits.
And then post it on the website for
Did you just make
feedback.
a motion, Al?
I believe he did.
I think he did.
And I'll second it.
Okay.
We just need a consensus.
Roll
So
call.
everybody says yes. Oh, you
Everybody
want
say
it?
no. Need a handbook. She said just general consensus.
Okay. Yep, yep.
We're good. Randy, say yes too. We'll take your vote. Come on, we'll get everything we can get.
Is that it for that?
Yep.
Good job on it, Randy. It's a lot of
This was-
wonderful information.
I read this 3 times and I just was like, I was super impressed.
Well, a lot of credit goes to Luann. for
Luann,
History
yeah.
stuff, and then, like I said, and then also the county did all the mapping for us in that. I told them what we needed and we went back and forth with some things, but I think the tempting thing is that you always want to describe the community, but you could spend the rest of our lives describing Whitewater Township.
No,
I
you
mean, that
can't.
doesn't really take us anywhere farther. We're just trying to get this basic set of information out there that people can understand what's important here. Like, I didn't really realize that that Iron Belt Trail runs through Whitewater Township.
Yeah, I didn't realize.
You know, that's pretty remarkable, really. That's a trail that runs across the whole country, the whole state of Michigan, from one end to the other, and it comes through.
Should we give
I learned.
Luann a that a girl? Should we send Luann a note? We can all sign it next meeting. Thanks for your input. Thanks for helping us.
Never
Okay,
hurts for
Never
sure.
hurt. No, it doesn't. Maybe you should come up with more.
Yeah, I learned a lot and I was
Yeah, me
almost
too.
embarrassed and ashamed that I didn't know, but so it was great. All right, so the next meeting, we have our special PC meeting on the 15th at 7. And then we have our next regular meeting. I'm sorry, then we hopefully have a joint meeting on the 17th at 6 PM.
We have a special one on the 10th.
We have a subcommittee on the 10th.
Yeah.
Let's back up. Let's start over. Subcommittee on the 4th, subcommittee on the 10th. Special PC meeting on the 15th. Hopefully a joint meeting on the 17th. And then a next regular meeting of June 7th.
Okay, why wouldn't we have the joint meeting?
That's us on the 10th.
Well,
Yes.
because the board has to agree with it at their
You're not
night
gonna be
meeting
here,
on the
right?
9th.
You can
We
just
have a
send me what
motion
you can.
for them to agree.
I guess
We'll get
I'm
there.
gonna have
Yes,
to make a
please.
big, huge, like, come to the party card or something.
All right, I'm gonna open it back up to public.
You got any
comment?
I got one question.
Go ahead.
On our next regular meeting, are we gonna go through this? As a group? I know we're kind of cutting it short tonight.
I'm not sure, I guess,
I think maybe that should go to the subcommittee. Isn't
I
that?
I just have a couple comments of my own.
Well, you can say
go ahead.
Well, I didn't, I just want to make sure we got the time. I know we're trying to cut things short.
No, go ahead. That's,
Or
we,
make it
I
an
skipped
agenda
over
item
that
next time.
kind of,
It's up to you.
what's that?
Could we?
You can make it an agenda item next time in the interest of time to.
What, we could do that.
Is there any reason why we can't go through this and just send stuff to him email? Or does it have to be at the meeting?
Well,
Yeah,
I think it should be at the meeting because I want to make sure everybody understands that this is just history. This
Right.
isn't opinion. This isn't how the future is going to be. This is just where it is.
Right.
and
where we're at.
We can't do future yet because we have so much data
I'm
to
just saying,
collect, the survey and the things.
If you find a piece of history that you thought maybe would be in it, you could send it. to
Oh,
the-
right. in addition
You know,
to it.
right, he could decide whether, you know. both it's
But let's
organized
give Mike
in.
a minute.
Oh,
I don't
definitely,
mind. If you guys don't mind, let's give you a minute on this.
In the history, the Native American part,
Could you just give us the page numbers, Mike?
I'm looking for it.
It is 14.
14 of the packet or 14 of
14
the,
of that book.
okay.
Like maybe 34 of the packet.
34 the packet, page
Thanks.
14 of the document.
Cause I was like, my 14 something different.
Just a little bit of history that, under the Native Americans, that, I wouldn't mind seeing put in there, is this, the Native this region was important to the Native American Indians, the encampment that was mentioned in here, at the Samuels Farm, there was a trail that led from there all the way to Saginaw. And that kind of shows how this region was important to the people even before white man was here. So it kind of highlights,
wow.
it highlights the importance to the state that this region was, even way back then. And on that same page on 34, this little grade in area at the bottom, it says, when our grandparents came in the 1850s, I think that should read our great grandparents, because I'm just about as old as everybody in this room.
It
and
might
my
be two
grandparents were
grades.
here-
It might be too.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm thinking that's two grades.
So that's a quote from that book that, so I'd want to double check that.
So
So,
that's, right, that's
Yeah.
something Rob said. so I get you, you're right.
yeah, I think that's,
And then near the end of this,
You could use the term ancestors if you didn't like that.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, but
he's
it's
right,
a
it's a quote
quote.
from the book and that makes sense when you
Yeah.
take it in that context. On page 73, I believe. This APA trend report.
Hmm.
I'm not so sure that we want to use all this information in, the best example that I can show you in this is, on page 74, the second paragraph, it says, US manufacturing resurgence. The US is expecting a boom in manufacturing fueled by a strong dollar. I, for one, do not want to put in this document that we think there's a strong dollar right now. The American dollar,
Is next to nothing.
the American dollar is tanking and it's gonna tank even harder if something doesn't change real. So I wouldn't want to be responsible for people thinking that we thought the dollar was strong at this point in time when we passed this document. And there's a couple other things, like the paragraph above it, it talks about electric cars. And it talks about a road with wireless charging in the road that the cars can be charged while they're driving and idling. Electric cars don't idle.
I know.
Okay,
They're
so
on a
some of this stuff just doesn't make any sense.
Well, again, it's from the American Planning Association and their document, so that's their understanding of. And I'm familiar with that place because it's in Detroit where they're working on that, but idling may not be the right term. You're right, because they don't idle.
I've worked around electric vehicles a long time and they don't idle.
No, you can't even hear them.
They can be,
Yeah, they can't be idle when you run out of power.
how you word it.
Right, so I was just wanting to point out, I'm not sure that we want to quote stuff or
Are we-
everything
are we
out of this
stuck quoting?
particular. report, because I'm not sure how accurate it is.
Let me go back and get the original source material and make sure that that's represented properly. Then,
I mean, it's just my own comment.
Mike, you're part of the team.
I just say that I actually saw three of the Samuel brothers working on their farm back in the 1960s. When we came up and rented cottages, they were still working that farm back then, and the Ponastasi's, they knew them and bought vegetables from them, and they were real characters.
I didn't realize that. I mean, that's another important thing for the township. There's 13 sites on the National Register and one
Yes.
of them's here. 13 sites in Grand Traverse County. And one of them's here. And I had no idea.
Samuel Brothers actually built me a spear for spearing muskies through the ice.
Oh, really?
Take a pitchfork, straighten it out, put
Yeah.
lead on it.
Yeah.
Mike probably had one.
I don't know, I've never been much of a fisherman. Those things, there's lots of people looking for those right now.
Oh, yeah,
I
yeah,
wish I had it.
Everybody I talk to wants to know.
yeah,
I know
everybody
where they
wants
get
those.
them.
That's a real treasure.
Right,
Okay, is that all of them?
yeah, that's pretty. much
Thank
it.
you. All right, public comment. We'll start with Town Hall. Lois, you're up.
Since there's no one on Zoom.
All right.
Oh, I got way too many notes here. Your budget is by your fund, your planning commission budget overall. It's not really by line item. It looks that way,
Right.
but it's
Okay.
really not. Your budget is planning commission. So if you're over by 100 on one thing and you're under by 100 on another thing, it's going to even out. The treasurer's office deals with this regularly because one year we'll have fair amount of training and the next year none. And so how do you budget for it? Because you just don't know. Anyway, I am hoping that after the meeting on the 10th of the subcommittee, if there's any way you guys can do a draft to the board instead of waiting until one day before, because they aren't gonna like it.
Yeah, they want
They
time to
are
read stuff.
absolutely going to complain that they don't have enough time to look at it all. And it's
And they won't look
very,
at it.
very important that they look at it and that they look at it with eyes that are open to what you're looking for. The meeting tomorrow on the 4th, I think is going to be really good for getting those basic PO questions and all of that. I hope you have a list going because I do. To work with the clerk. And in that draft, I did not look at it, but are there things in there that are like, gonna be like spelling corrections? I would just hate to have everybody make their comments on punctuation and spelling. And maybe that would be a prelim in your note to say, please disregard spelling and punctuation errors because those will be addressed.
Yeah, I think it's pretty clean of those, but I guess I don't
Okay.
want to get into arguments about where commas go and at this point. I mean, we can polish it up at the end, but I mean, sections may come and
What I'm
go.
saying is when it's
Yeah.
posted on the website, that might be all you get.
Yeah, I know, and that's
So-
not uncommon to get that kind of stuff, but,
'Cause
but,
that's what I'm
but, but I'm hoping that people can think bigger than that.
Thank you, Lois. All right, in Zoom, do we have anybody that wants to make a public comment?
Is there anybody left?
Yeah. I don't see any hands up. So next meeting, we went over that. We did that. Okay. Now discussion and comments. I just have a really weird, like, why are education and discussion and comments after the public comment? I guess I can be taught that later, but it just doesn't make any sense to me.
No, because usually it goes public comment, or
and then-
comment, and then you're done.
Yeah, but we have continuing education after our comments.
Well, because
We can
normally
do
like,
that another time.
Okay,
Yeah.
it's pretty late, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna postpone the education, but is there any discussion? Final discussion or comments from the planning commission?
I think it's listed like that because education's like an open-ended thing.
Like if you have time,
Mm-hmm.
that's too bad. It should be important, but
Well, you can move it. It's your
Yeah.
agenda. You can put it wherever you want.
Okay.
Right?
well, we'll see. When we get caught up with all this other stuff, we're definitely gonna hammer in some education, but okay, I guess that's it. I will call the meeting adjourned at, do we have to do a motion for that? Okay, 10:15 PM. Thank you.
Okay, what time do you want to meet Monday?
Thank you so much.
I just don't have time. Smash